Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this podcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Saturday, March 29th, 2025. Where has the year gone? We're almost through the first quarter of 2024, and Disclosure, is it finally picking up? Are we finally moving forward? Well, let's go ahead and jump into the studio and talk about it. Yes, we've got some more news coming together, but you know, before we get there, I want to go ahead and welcome in our audience right now. Let's go ahead and take a look and see who the heck we have there. Before I do that, let me strike up the drums or around. There we go. All right, let's see who the heck we have out there, my friends. Just a little bit here. All right, let's go ahead and welcome in our audience. Who the heck do we have out there? Let's take a look. We have Andy W's here all the way from the United Kingdom. We've got Billy Boo, Colette Dyson, and Daryl. We've got Destiny Rocks, Diva Kim, Eli McGinnis, and Eliza Teal. Good to see Eliza. Daryl jumping in the back. There's no mic today. Let's welcome and let's thank Diva Kim, Eli McGinnis, Eliza Teal, and Eric Roth and the Gurus. How about that? We got Firefly, Frank Cathell, John May at Lockett's here, along with Kathy, Kelly Joe Connolly, and Kelly Broughton, those piercing blue eyes. I just saw JB show up. Good to see you, JB. Along with King Bull, Noodles is here with a K. Liliana Chuna, Maritime Unprepared is here, along with Mr. Joey B. Nancy Kuzmano, along with Peter Tremulous. We got Roland and Rough Reddy, Sam, and Scowling Wolf, all in one breath. How about that?
Copenhagen long pack and 2 packs of Marble 72s, the red box.
Okay, my friend Abe. We got Abe in the back, too. Let me go ahead and mute him for a second. Let's continue on. 2 packs of Marlboros. How about that? Let's welcome, and where was I? Scowling Wolf, Sharon Rose. We got Sam and Rough Reddy and Roland. Shelly Montgomery's here, along with the Super Unknown, the Chromosome Cowboy. D. Coin 405 is here, along with Tom 71, Tony D. Truth Seeker, and Yankee 58. What a great year. What a great year, I got to tell you. 10 years before me, but yeah, I'll take it. How about that? Do you guys like the new intro card today? Yeah, we've had unbelievable solar storms going on. It's quiet now, but you know what? Got to celebrate it when it's around. On that note, talking about celebrating, let's go ahead and celebrate our back panel and see who the heck we have back there today. All right, our first person who's with us today. Let's welcome in all the way from the great state of Florida, Alice W. How you doing, Alice?
Hi, Thomas. Hi, everyone. Doing good. Looking forward to the show.
Great to have you here. Also, next, want to welcome in our next friend, Andy W. from the great country, United Kingdom, Bristol, for that matter. How's it going, Andy?
Hi, Thomas. Yeah, apart from the cat trying to get out of the cat flap and banging it, so I got to go and let him out because he's too lazy. But yeah, it's all going well. Doing good.
Great to have you here, my friend. Our next friend comes to us from the great state of Hawaii, where it's sunny and 86 every single day of the year. Let's welcome in our dear, I think it's 78, 86, something like that. Let's welcome in Corporal Abe. How's it going, Abe?
Good. Sorry about the interruption. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great show.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming in and being part of the conversation. Our next friend comes to us from the great state of Wisconsin. Let's welcome in the one, the only, Laura Campbell, who's also a remote viewing targeter. Laura, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Thomas. It's so interesting doing this over the years to finally see it becoming more of a common phrase that people are learning about and using.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm glad.
It's about time, you know.
Yeah.
It was initially, you know, brought out by the talents of Russell Targ and all the people he brought together at Stanford Research Institute back in the day. And it's great to have someone who's so close to this movement. Thank you for being here, Laura.
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our next friend comes to us from Canada, the province where all the U's are silent. Let's welcome in Mr. Michael Segloff. How's it going, Michael?
Going good, Thomas.
Great to have you around, my friend. You're the invisible man. How about that? I love it. All right, let's now turn our focus. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like on Maxwell Smart, he says, I saw 2 invisible men leave my apartment.
Nice. I admit we missed it by that much. Absolutely. Thanks for coming in. Our next friend's coming to us from the great state of Massachusetts. Some people like to call him a masshole, but I won't do that because it's our own Sergeant Daniel, former USMC. How's it going, Daniel?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can participate and add something useless.
Well, let's see how the back does today. I do as well. Mike is out wrestling and losing against his washing machine. Apparently, he's got a Whirlpool that's 5 or 6 years old. No receipt, unfortunately. No instruction booklet or manual. And unfortunately, no stickers on it for the model number. So he's trying to fix this thing, but he can't find the parts for it because, well, can't fix something that you can't identify. Talking about fixing something, before we get too far, I want to jump into this and just show everybody how much YouTube is screwing their viewers these days. Yes, I know we're on YouTube and we love them, but you know, we got to hate them for some of the things that are going on. What am I talking about? We're going to go ahead and do this together as an audience. Let me bring this up here. Here we go. All right, so this is last night's show, and this is back in the YouTube studio. Logo off to the side so you see it. There we go. Let's move it over here for right now. All right, so YouTube Studio. I'm in the editor looking at what they have and what they've inserted for ads. This is what YouTube now is doing to all anyone who is a content creator and you have monetization turned on. They literally have ads going every, multiple times a minute. So I'm just going to go in here right now and delete. Oh, yes, I want to turn off automatic ad slots because they're not on. Let me turn that one off, turn that one off, turn that one off, turn that one off. Okay, we're at 20 minutes. I think it's safe to do an ad every 20 minutes, not every 5 minutes or 2 minutes that they're doing. So let's go up to 42. Leave it at 47. Let's go around a minute and 1. Let's move on now to another 20 minutes in. That's good. Let's delete some more ads. You can see they're all just getting deleted on the bottom for a damn good reason, because who wants to watch anything that is just nothing but constant ads? That one should be all right. Let's get rid of all of these and leave that one. And let's get rid of all the ads until the end. How about that? We've gone from, we've probably 50 ads here down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty much almost 90% of the ads I've just taken out of there. Let me go ahead and click the button to save. As I'm going through this, I wanted to do this with the audience because you know what? When the show is over, I'll go in there half an hour, a couple hours after the show, and I still can't do this. It's not until the next morning unless I remember to go in and actually fix this mess. And I want to apologize for any of the people out there that are doing this. It's not that we're trying to be greedy here. No. We're just going to try and get some revenue coming in, but not to be so greedy. Laura, I just see your head nodding up and back and forth. And it's horrible, isn't it?
It is. And we have, I listened to a show, I'm not going to name who, nice guy, but ad, it drove me nuts. And we have one of our computers where we pay for the extra charge to eliminate that. Mine, we haven't yet, which we might, but it's terrible all the way around. We're just too much ads.
If you get a YouTube subscription, you actually, for the family, you can do it up onto 5 different accounts. And if you have it for the house, if you have it just for one place, you can use that one account across multiple devices, and wherever you have that YouTube account, it'll keep the ads out. It's one of the, I invested in that years ago, and it's, I haven't, and ads were bad back then, and what I'm seeing now and what YouTube's doing is absolutely horrible. Again, I apologize. It's not intentional.
And I always wonder how they target the ads for the show that you're watching. And sometimes they're pretty obnoxious. They've been a lot of political, a lot of loud music lately. And some of them just don't match with the show. you're kind of like, oh, do I care about hemorrhoids with this? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and for some of the sensitive topics that people may watch on Twitter for some personal entertainment purposes, yes, they even have ads in between those, so not as bad as inserting the content. But yeah, it's kind of a sad situation these days about monetization, pushing it out and trying to get so much. But thinking about that, we actually did get a small super chat coming in. Actually, we got 4 of them already. Holy cow, I have not been paying attention. Anonymous Rex, first of all, saying, the guy with the sparkle in his eyes. Thank you very much. Appreciate the Anonymous Rex. Phase Will, thank you very much. Hopefully everything's going great for you. And mid to upper northern California. I want to thank Shelly Montgomery. DT is the place to be. Thank you very much. 3 super chats in a row for $9.99. Holy cow! Thank you, everybody. And the Coin 405, Thomas. Thanks for reducing the ads. And I try to do this in every show, and if I don't do it, I apologize. But it's something I do intentionally try to clean up because it's out of my control to say how often I want to have one of these placed after the live broadcast. Now, is there anybody out there who is getting live ads during the live stream? Because I know I have that turned off, and YouTube keeps on saying, why don't you turn this on? You know, you can get uplift and get more, lift up your revenue by up to 20% by having ads midstream, and they do have a button for me to click, and every time I say disable, you need to.
Good job, Thomas.
All right. Now, getting back to talking about everything disclosure and UFOs, before we get on to our top story for today, I have an interesting Twitter post that I came across this morning. I wanted to go ahead and share this for our friends in the United Kingdom. Coming to us from UAP Hive, and or UA Hive for that matter. Confirmation on FOIA that police helicopter retreated from a drone to avoid a collision. Given there's only one matching airport, this will be Lakenheath or Mildenhall incident, likely over Newmarket. Credit to the infamous Mr. Anchi, someone like that to that extent. Let me go ahead and clear up so we can show on my face here. Here we go. Heard the button. Let's go ahead and get to this. All right. Let's play this quick video here and just see what the heck we're talking about. Yes, it looks like a helicopter in the UK had to take, you know, precautions because they were going to run into a drone. So let's play this video, and here we go, everybody. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Apparently, there's no audio coming on this. Make sure. There it is.
Disheartened, by the way.
Son of a gun. All right. Sorry about this, audience. Here we go one more time.
One of my quick shaky cam videos, because this is huge. I use What Do They Know for the Freedom of Information request, and if someone adds an annotation to your request, you get a notification. And I've got a notification today, and it's from the infamous Mr. Onyesh. And why do I say that? Well, he's a guy that used to question about Gatwick, so I put my questions on there from the drone viewpoint, and he was doing it from the UAP. And obviously, to avoid duplication, I'd watch what he was doing, and he'd watch what I was doing, and sometimes we'd drop annotations on each other's requests. Now, the DFT did something unique to us both. They tried to brand us both as vexatious and block us from freedom of information. You can't do that, it's unlawful. The ICO got involved and knocked that on the head. But it seemed to, with this guy, he seemed to just do a few freedom of informations after that and vanished. So I just figured he just got disheartened by the way that freedom of information is just gamed in this country and made so difficult. But he's appeared back out of the woodwork and he's questioned about Lakenheath, and he has got something that appears to have come out before the police were applying the national security. So it looks like the Cabinet Office or MOD put pressure on, and the NPCC, and it's even admitted to in a recent Freedom of Information request, have been managing Lake and Heath requests. So this, I don't think, would have come out had it not been... It's just fallen through the cracks, so it's been asked before this has been going on. But just check this out. It is quite startling. So we've got confirmation that the National Police Air Service helicopter did withdraw due to the drone coming close to them. So they feared for a collision. Now, looking at the flight plan, it looked like they were over Newmarket, so you could have had a situation of a helicopter and drone crashing over a residential area, bits falling down to the ground, fatalities, all the works, all the scary stuff. So they've retreated back. That does not look good. We've got here, forced to take emergency evasive action in relation to a drone which came within a dangerously, and then it just has been, I assume, redacted there without them putting the marks on. Hard to believe that's anything other than the same incident. Obviously, we don't know because there's no mention of MPAS there, but it seems more than likely. This was interesting. Dealing with drone issues tonight, had a suspect vehicle make off at speed from an unmarked MOD police vehicle. So the thing here that's important to consider, which hasn't been captured in any of the sort of news reporting around this, is there is a contraband problem above the prison. So in Newmarket, there's been up to 8 drones in a single incident, potentially trying to deliver contraband. So it could be that it's a heavy lift drone being used by organised crime, or obviously the narrative's been put out, or maybe it's Putin and some agents messing about. We don't know, but obviously it could be something just organised crime. But for certain, something serious has gone on, which is not being made public, and it should be. You know, this is definitely public interest. If this was to go, before a judge, and you said, is this public interest? Yes, it is. I don't think they're going to come to any other decision than yes, it is. But it's daft that we're even having this hidden in the UK. You know, in the US, they had New Jersey, New York, and the authorities have been transparent. You know, they've detailed the investigation. They've detailed the technology they put out there. And here, this is all just been, redacted, covered up, deflected, and it's not right. You know, this is a police helicopter in civilian airspace. We should know what's going on.
So interesting enough, we've got a counting of some people doing some FOIAs in the United Kingdom. It's interesting that we've been able to go ahead and actually see some FOIAs, because usually when FOIAs get requested regarding the drones, they come back to say we can't tell you anything because it's a national security issue, and they deny it. But in this particular one, we have it where we see accounts of a helicopter forced to take emergency evasive action, and another one where they've actually had a suspect vehicle that they lost when trying to follow from a unmarked MOD vehicle. Now, getting back to this particular situation about the drones going over in Lake and Heath, there's been a lot of press that's come out recently, especially from Christopher Sharp at the Liberation Times, which is one of the people we're going to be talking about here tonight at Disclosure tonight, in regards to in regards to the presidential SAP, a special access program. It's something we've talked about many times here on Disclosure tonight. And I'm happy and glad to see that we're finally starting to get some press coming across about fair use. There we go. About what's been going on in the United Kingdom, for that matter. Actually, not in the United Kingdom. Gotta slow down a little bit, have some more coffee. Okay, about what has actually been going on with the UFO cover-up in the United States. Now, everyone has been saying for the longest time, no, it's all covered up in the Department of Defense. And I've been saying, well, it's probably in the Department of Energy, because the DOD is not necessarily the place we're going to do a lot of research. Because if you remember, after we had the Manhattan Project to go ahead and develop our nuclear bomb, after we developed the initial program and we got it there, the observations and retrievals of UFOs was pulled into the same type of secrecy from the DOE as what they had potentially from the Manhattan Project, from that matter. So, fast forward till today, I believe it was about a year ago, we had information coming from, who was it again? Coming from Kristen Gillibrand with regards to, she was I think she was the first to mention about not the possibility of the UFO program being kept within a presidential SAP. She called it out and said that, yes, this is a program that is maintained within a presidential SAP, which sounds like something she was very familiar with, or in one way or the other. So on that note, let me go ahead and get up the article. Bring it up. All right. Always support your independent journalism, like our friend Christopher Sharp over at the Liberation Times. Let me go ahead and bring up their wonderful thing. Yes, Liberation Times, it's a great place to go ahead and learn about disclosure and what's going on coming out of it. Support independent journalism. Subscribe now. And yes, I actually, Disclosure Tonight does go ahead and support Christopher Sharp on a regular basis here. For what he does. We support Christopher on Patreon, and we're very happy for everything that he can bring out. So coming to us in the top story tonight, coming from, of course, Christopher Sharp, Liberation Times, Immaculate Constellation is a secret UFO program hidden in the White House. And I would probably just say that answer is probably a big yes, my friends. Let me jump back into the solo here for a second so I can bring up the story, and we can go ahead. Let me move this out of here. Come on. Image in new tab. Oh, wow, that's an interesting photo. There you go. People try to make it so you can't copy the photos out. Always up a cool photo as we're talking about what's been going on here. I promise I'll get it. What's dealing with here. All right, view. Yeah, Mike, everything's doing great. Get to video solo. Here we got it. Yeah, a little bit dark here. All right, so getting into this. Almost 30. Almost there. Just deal with it for another second. Live video production. You gotta love it. Gotta love it, my friend. So much for everything. All right, let's get into this. So get past all the intro and get past all the political jargon that gets in here. We know that UFOs in the United States and everything goes along with it with regards to disclosure is a political issue, and I apologize for anybody out there who may be offended by us talking about politics. That gets your goat the wrong way. Well, I'm sorry. But disclosure and UFOs kind of go hand in hand, especially here in the United States, that this is probably covered up in a presidential SAP. So instead, okay, so the program known as Immaculate Constellation, which is a data gathering platform to go ahead and gather all the particular data that's in CPRNet, JWixNet, and all the different, if you want to call it, top secret networks for communication within the government. Their goal for Immaculate Constellation is to grab all the data, pull it out of the areas for the eyes that they don't want to see it, and bring it up to a level that it can be shared on the executive level. So that's kind of what Immaculate Constellation is. And apparently it could be overseen by the National Security Council, the president's principal forum for coordinating national security and foreign policy, uniting military, intelligence, and diplomatic agencies under a single executive umbrella. This explanation would align with what journalist Jeremy Corbell has suspected. Now, speaking to the Liberation Times, Jeremy Corbell said, let me go ahead and just get this in here so everybody can. That bring it around. Screenshot, bring it. Capture it. There we go. All right, let me show you the words as we get the quote here coming specifically from Jeremy Corbell. The National Security Council can oversee special access programs, especially if a special access program or unacknowledged special access program little bit larger for people to see. Here you go. Falls under presidential purview or requires interagency coordination at the highest level, which Immaculate Constellation would absolutely require. The National Security Council wouldn't run the unacknowledged special access program in any operational sense, but it would play a key role in their authorization, oversight, and strategic direction, particularly if the president deems the issue critical to national security, and would coordinate multiple agencies without running its day-to-day operations. This is especially plausible for unacknowledged special access programs that are so sensitive that they are shielded from standard congressional oversight. And that's the thing that everyone in the House of Representatives has been angry about, is saying, wait a minute, we have no congressional oversight here. Anything going on in the DOD deserves congressional oversight. But the truth of the matter is, if it is actually held within the executive branch, it sounds like, I could be wrong, but it definitely sounds like, yes, that would shield anything going on with the UFO program from standard congressional oversight. As this arrangement also supports the possibility of maintaining security, because you know what? A lot of people in Congress, different areas, they get access to this information. Unfortunately, they don't keep their mouth shut. This described mission of Immaculate Constellation would absolutely fall under this value system. Interesting enough. Now, it actually go on a little bit longer. Let's bring that up here. Screenshot. Here we go. Back to that as I try to see the stuff. Okay, so let me down onto this display. Bring it here as in the quote from Jeremy Corbell continues. The unacknowledged SAP, so sensitive that it dodges congressional eyes, requires the National Security Council's oversight. It's inevitable. This is a core function of the UFO cover-up by legacy architecture, obfuscating from the public from the UFO presence reality. We will learn more about this soon directly from whistleblowers familiar with the matter. Interesting to say the least. If correct, it raises urgent concerns regarding a lack of action from the Trump administration and whether figures are attempting to thwart any investigations within the National Security Council and the wider defense intelligence infrastructure. And I just want to say, hold on, wait a minute. Before we go ahead and jump to that conclusion, remember, there have been a lot of things going on in the Trump administration. We're a little over 2 months into it. Everyone wants their UAP disclosure, and we want it now. But I think considering the shit that we didn't get for the last 4 years from the Biden administration, now we're in a new one. We're only a couple months in. We need a little bit over a couple months. We need to just relax a little bit and know that we'll get there. And if not, I'm sure the press will be pushing the buttons to try and make sure that comes across. But there were promises made with regards to bringing out the truth about UAP disclosure coming from the Trump, and many times that he had interviews and such. And I think what we're going to be dealing with, if we can be patient enough, it will be promises kept. Now, this would also explain why the Gang of 8 members believe the DOD is still mystified by previous drone incursions. The wider allegation from UAP whistleblowers is this information is being hidden from them. Perhaps, just perhaps, key elected representatives should focus on uncovering how the DOD and intelligence community may be evading accountability through hidden programs rather than relying on a familiar curated flow of information that they've come accustomed to, which honestly, to me, it sounds like what Christopher Sharp is talking about here is specifically that, you know what, we're going to have a hearing, we're going to come in, we're going to ask questions of people of RO or the DOD, and they're going to give us some answers, and then we're going to get carted off to a skiff, and they're going to give us some answers to questions. But you know what? It never goes anywhere. We haven't gone anywhere with any of these cat and mouse games that have gone on for the last 4+ years. This has been, I mean, that I've been covering this. It's always the same bullshit time after time. If anyone in the back has any comments, Andy, what say you, my friend?
I don't.
Andy?
Yeah, if I'm having network errors at the moment, so hopefully I won't drop out. But it just amazes me how well they've got this subject fighting down. 80 years now. It's harder to get into this subject than into Fort Knox, it seems.
Yeah.
It's just, how they've absolutely locked it down right from the early 50s, and nobody's ever been able to get into it.
Let's call it the late 40s from that matter. We're talking 47 when Roswell happened. Remember, Lou Elizondo has said many times that, yes, Roswell happened and is real.
Yeah, and we know, these politicians are only in for a finite amount of time. They some of them come and go. You've got your old guard, I'll say, a very old guard, some of these people who, quite frankly, shouldn't be practicing.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a retirement home at times, doesn't it? We have to be worried about members of Congress tripping and falling and breaking their hip. Now, that was something I used to worry about with my grandmother, not my elected officials.
Yeah, but even the people who were working there when, you have changes in government, the people who are behind the scenes who work there all the time. How many generations of these people have worked, under this lockdown? Probably 3 or 4 generations of
At
people
least.
now.
Yeah.
To have it locked down and nobody's ever broken. It seems to be a cardinal rule. There must be so few people actually involved in holding it to account, but we've never heard anybody break from the ranks and say, "Yep, this is it." It's quite impressive in a way how well they've managed to keep this locked down. It really is. Manhattan Project. We know people who husbands and wives who were working on the Manhattan Project. They didn't know what each other were doing. This I'm sure has taken its lead from that.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like if they've kept everything locked down for as long as they've been particularly saying, it sounds to me like what you're talking about is completely accurate. It's just, it's locked down beyond it. And the sad part of it is, it's not that just they're focusing on the craft and the military applications of it. They're actually keeping the reality of it a completely different life form from a scientific anthropologic state away from all of humanity, which just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it bleeds in, and I'm going to bring up a name, and I'm not saying whether I believe he's genuine or what, but Bob Lazar. He was saying how they were so compartmentalized. If you believe his story, they were so compartmentalized he couldn't go and speak to the guys working down the corridor and say, "I've got a bit of an issue with this I'm working on." It seems to potentially tie in with what you're tying into. There's no cross communication. If this is the case, and I can understand why they haven't cracked it, because nobody, we all know in our workplaces you have to speak to people from other areas in your workplace of employment to get things done. If you're not talking to your person across the other side of the room there, you're stuck. It just seems to follow that they've locked it down so tightly that you can't have a conversation about something, even if it's slightly out of your remit, but it falls under your remit.
Yeah.
It's just, it just really, really sort of beggars belief with it. If that's the way they're running it, then they're never going to crack these systems.
Oh, heck no.
And we're never going to hear anything about it.
Yeah. I'd have to completely agree with you. It's just one of the things, but it comes down to, like in remote viewing. Laura Campbell, you have your hand up. The more they try to hide these things, the greater they shine, the more brilliant they are for people to go ahead and observe it. What are your thoughts, Laura? You're muted, I think.
Sorry, I think where we can win this game, I'm a little more optimistic because I can see where there are different organizations, different groups that are moving towards more disclosure, and it's not just the obviously Congress members. There are some of them that are well aware that they've been lied to, and if they were smart about it, I understand that they can't discuss what was mentioned in the skiff. However, they could maybe arrange an appointment with a reporter and maybe say, hey, ask me maybe some of these questions. And then they could suggest answers such as where there's smoke, there's fire, without giving out specifics, but imply that things are taking place. That's what I would do. I would work with the mass media, use it against them and all these organizations. So it's going to be a big effort, but the more the population gets educated, the more they should get angry, the more they need to actually rattle the cages of their representatives and say, look, we see you've been lying about Kennedy. We see you've been lying about another thing, which I won't mention. But that's, I think all of it coming out in Luna, that's part of their plan. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's more of it coming. And this is just another case of lies. That's what I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Laura. They do everything they can possibly do to distract the public attention, to have them look at a different look at something else, to go ahead and put out their denials time and time again. But I guess it's just the reality of our public just doesn't go ahead, and we have a very bad long-term memory and short-term memory problems with the public opinion. And I just hope people start realizing and start getting together to, I mean, heck, they even have now Democrats who love saving the planet with the Green New Deal and everything. Now they're out all protesting Tesla dealerships, destroying cars, marking up cars, doing Molotov cocktails. It's horrible, but, you know, and it's going against their whole dialogue. So we just need to be able to get, well, the whole thing, I guess it comes down to getting big money. Go ahead and try and bring it there. Sergeant Daniel, what say you?
So what do you think the mechanism is that keeps this whole thing secret? I mean, this is a big planet. I mean, you know, we have a big country. We have a lot of invested in this. But I mean, what's keeping it, you know, and you go to Africa, you know, you have, right in the middle of nowhere, they have cell phones. You know, what kind of mechanism is keeping the secret? That's what I kind of want to know.
Well, if you look at the craft themselves, Daniel, and how they move, this is something based on their design, their visibility or their lack of visibility seems to be based on the capabilities of the human eye and our technology. And it's as we advance, they throw up different ways to go ahead and keep it. For example, we have craft that move in the sky here in the Pacific Northwest. They're moving at the same rate and speed as what a jetliner would be going ahead and moving at, like a 737 coming in and landing at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. But craft moving, our non-human intelligence craft that are chevron-shaped, that also are chevron-shaped, but also moving with an orb in tandem, are being recorded, but you can't see them on radar. You can't see them on any kind of visual spectrum, whether it's UV or IR or anything. However, if you go ahead and have a thermal camera, they can get down to -60 degrees to see things at -60 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Then you have a chance of going and seeing these craft. That's one particular thing we have here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, as also recorded in Ukraine and detailed by the National Academy of Sciences, and it also aligns with videos that I have for Malta. We do have craft that are moving between 11 and 14,000 miles per hour. Human eye can only see up to a couple thousand miles per hour, maybe 3,000 miles per hour at most. These craft are moving well beyond the capabilities of the human senses. However, if you have a camera running at 60 frames a second, better even more, at 120 frames a second, and you go back and look at your footage, what you couldn't see in your eyes is now showing up on your recording. And we have craft that actually came down and are dive bombing jet fighters. So when you've got a jet fighter who's going up and they're actually going ahead and they're doing a maneuvers where they're coming towards each other and they flip past their sides and they bring back down, just as this one brings back down, and the craft is going about 450 miles per hour. You have a good old UAP that's coming down at 14,000 miles per hour out of the distance, comes down right in front of the craft, levels off, and shoots off. Interacting with our craft, they say, you know, oh my God, look, that was dangerous. It's a threat. Well, from our perceiving this, we see it as a threat because how fast we're going, how closely it got. But if we look at it from the perspective of the particular craft that's flying, we're like standing still. We're like a turtle on the side of the road that they're just maneuvering around. So, yeah, we can see it as a threat to us. And more importantly, if you're going to take it and put it out there as potentially a threat, the problem with that is what gets involved? Oh, yeah, military, right, Sergeant Daniel?
Well, I would think that, you know, like the Brazilian Roswell. I mean, there's a lot of evidence there. If they picked up bodies, but where were all the cell phone cameras? Why weren't people taking a million pictures? And
Brazilian Roswell?
Yeah, when they had that crash in Brazil, that the guy got sick from the alien.
Yeah, but that's a long time ago.
Well, yeah.
Relatively speaking, technology-wise, if you look to when that was, what we had for technology back then in cell phones, it wasn't that good. What year did that happen in?
I'm not sure the exact thing. I just saw a documentary on it recently. So
yeah. That wasn't like in 96. You know what kind of cell phones we had in 96?
But why? What would happen if it happened today? How would they stop it? What mechanism would kick in to shield it? You know what I'm saying? Like are they shielding themselves? Are they holding the secret? Because the common factor there is the non-human intelligence. So, I mean, what are they doing to protect the secret? Can they access all of our phones from a distance and shut off the cameras and that type of stuff?
But back when that happened, there were, back in '96, this is a year into me working at Disney as a senior game designer, the only senior game designer over their interactive and edutainment division. We didn't have cell phones back then. We didn't have that kind of technology in '96. Now, if we do have that today, look at the incident you had about a year and a half ago off the coast of San Diego, and you could see it down from Tijuana, different parts of Mexico, right?
Right.
And they had all the flares that were being dropped by the military. And, we had hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, all throughout that region, all getting out their cell phones, right? And recording it and sharing it everywhere on social media. If we have a mass sighting today, there's more than enough technology that's out there and people where we would go ahead and be able to, if you want to call it, record the event that's happening. Would you agree or disagree on that front?
No, I do think it probably should have happened by now. That's, what kicked in to stop that from happening? How many crashes do we not know about that just got wiped?
Well, what happened back? Yeah, potentially there was a crash, but there was beings that potentially escaped that ran around down in Brazil back at that time. I don't know if what kind of crashes we have potentially have, and if there have been crashes, are they going to be potentially near a major city, or is something going to be going on off at more of a distance? Now, we talked about two different kinds of UFOs before. We had the ones that are invisible here. We have the ones that are moving at 13,000, 14,000 miles per hour that you can't see. But also you have the ones that are visible at nighttime. You have the ones that are the orbs that are moving one at a time or three at a time in a triangular formation. Those seem to happen on a somewhat regular basis. Not so much lately, but they're still out there. We also have, and we call them orbs because they look round as we're looking at them, but we don't know what kind of shape could potentially be inside of that round shape or what might be there, because any times we'll see a light off in the distance, it's blaring to our eyes, but potentially it could be a bunch of different things that we're seeing, but we still don't know. Then we have the metallic orbs, like they saw over Mosul and different parts in the world, where these are just kind of cruising across the territory. So we have some that are definitely moving in a stealth manner. They're moving in a way that we can't see them. And Lou Elizondo has even said in conversations in the past, if the people of the United States could see all the UFOs that are actually flying around them, we'd lose it. We'd freak out.
That's probably correct. I just think the non-human intelligence are really trying to keep their secret, and we're not really going to get anywhere until they decide they want to let us know. You know, I mean, I know you say but it has to. I mean, if they're avoiding, they got to have some kind of intelligence. They are intelligent, even though they're non-human intelligent. So I mean, I think once they decide they're going to, let us see them outright, then
when they start revealing themselves and stop using the methods they have to be completely out of the visual spectrum of humanity.
Yeah.
And we can start seeing these things, they slow down their movements and what's going on, and we can see the stuff, then stuff can move forward. But I have a feeling that the reason they're starting to show themselves a bit more is potentially there was an agreement or they've talked about agreements many times. Is there an agreement between the non-human intelligence and between humanity? Now, if there is that particular agreement, what are the terms? Are we supposed to, as humans and governments, supposed to go ahead and disclose this to all of humanity by a certain time?
Right.
And if we are, and we didn't do it, are we somewhat experiencing the non-human intelligence going ahead and saying, you know what, screw you humans.
Right.
You haven't gone and followed through on what we promised. We're going to start moving forward at this point.
Well, he could probably do a lot of dissuading from different world leaders by, the hitchhiker thing, have someone come into the end of their bed at the middle of the night, and scare the living daylights out of them. I mean, I'm sure they do stuff like that to try to stop it, get their way. You're not going to say anything. We're going to haunt you for the rest of your life. I mean, they probably do stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just a big question mark on so many different areas, and us as your average citizens, we can go, or a little bit more than your average citizens, we can go out there and look for stuff. We can try and find the information and come to an analysis of it, but we can only go so far with the information that's been obliged to us. And that's why it's important that we have these new these new platforms and new people coming out to go ahead and do this. And I hate to do this. Andy, you there, my friend? There you are. All right. Nick has his hand up. Andy, Nick, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yes.
I can hear it. I need to step away for 30 seconds, so just talk slowly. I can hear you, but I have to go I need to go take a piss. So Mike's not here to cover for me. And I still need to go ahead, Nick.
Yes, but the agreements that you have talked about, we all know that these agreements are probably human for technology agreements, which is the most likely what people are talking about, which are pretty much, it can never talk about that, because if they talk about that, people would get very angry, and it could cause a lot of problems for the United States and its allies all over the world, because if they knew that the United States government sold them out for technology, people would be very angry, and they wouldn't take that all that well, I believe.
I think, Nick, humans are going to be angry anyway. Angry that they've been lied to. And, Thomas talks about groups that are getting together. I know of one coming up, a couple, actually. I'm going to be part of one in May. But also Chris Bledsoe and Bertie, I think it's Jaworski, if I'm pronouncing it, remote viewer. They're going to be having some in-person retreats coming up in May. And then there's going to be one in August, where they're going to get groups of people together, and they're going to be calling these or trying to persuade them to come forward and record it. So more and more people see this and experience it. I know that's one of Bledsoe's goals, because he, if you have a personal experience with this, you want others to realize that this is real, it's happening, and not just planes flying over. So.
All right. Along those lines, so I know this is something Nick has brought up many, many times in the past. I want to bring this down here. I have a survey, if I can get out of the way. I just started with the audience. Let me go ahead and get it up here. See what I can do to go ahead and get it there. All right, let me bring this one up from our studio, for a studio audience. Bring it here. All right. So there is an agreement about disclosure between humans and the non-human intelligence. Sorry about the spelling mistake about at this point, but let me go ahead and get to a wrong sound effect. Let me get this up here. Where we go. All right. Hey, Google, set a timer for 2 minutes, please. Let's see where our audience takes us on this particular. Already 77% of our audience, with 46% of our votes in, are saying that yes, there is an agreement between humans and the non-human intelligence. Andy, what do you think?
I said yes, if my network allows me.
Oh, you're good. So you would agree and say that would be a yes. Or what do you think?
I think certain groups may have tried arrangements. Can we trust those arrangements? And if they follow through? So I want to go, I can't answer yes or no on that one. I'm in between.
So you think there might be one, or there may not be one?
Certain groups may have tried to do arrangements, but whether or not they go through with their arrangements is another story.
That's like the pigs trying to have an arrangement with the farmer.
Right.
We can think we have an arrangement, but how much of an arrangement do we really have?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Michael Sokoloff, what say you?
Out of open hell, how would we enforce the agreement? There's no way. There's no way we couldn't have an agreement, because there's no way we could enforce anything against the NHI.
Well, they can enforce stuff against us, though, right?
Oh yeah, they can, and they don't need an agreement to do that.
It's like getting a student loan.
They just do it.
You can get the money real easily. You just sign your name to get a student loan. But the thing is, once you sign that piece of paper, they own you. There's no way to get out of not giving that money.
And there's no way of enforcing anything, right?
Well, they can enforce it against us. You can't enforce anything on them to get out of that agreement.
It's not an agreement, is it?
Well, technically an agreement is a contract that's signed, whether it's more leading one way or the other, or it's equal, right? That in any kind of a contract you get into is an agreement. It doesn't mean it has to be 50-50. Other than we agreed to something and we agreed that we're going to follow something, and potentially it could be the non-human intelligence, which is a lot smarter, enforcing it on us rather than us enforcing it on them.
Well, we're pretty dumb if we let them be smarter than us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like an agreement between Germany, Italy, and Austria. When they got taken over, they didn't have any say. There was no way they could enforce anything or defend themselves.
Or it's kind of like
what one side says.
Or it's like an agreement I have.
Situation.
Or it's like an agreement I have here with the dogs that I will feed them every day about 3 o'clock. Now, they come down here and look at me and are like, where the hell's my food? But the only person who can go ahead and prepare and give them the food, that's me, right? So although there is an agreement between us.
The dogs have an upper hand because they can make us feel very guilty.
Yeah.
Just by looking at us and whining.
I think we have those in the United States. We call them Democrats.
No, see, there's a political pun that you need to stay away from on the show.
Oh, you got to have fun with this sometimes, my friend. Hey, I am wearing a blue hoodie at least. But Mickey Mouse does wear red pants, so take that into consideration, everybody. All right, for that matter, let's move on with the situation. All right, and let me go ahead and end this poll at the end with a whopping 89 votes in. 75% of our audience said true. There is an agreement. So, Nick, you're on to something, my friend.
But yes, we all know that the United States government would sell out the average American for technology.
Yeah.
It would sell us out for technology, which is pretty immoral, Thomas, and wrong in so many ways.
Why do you think it'd be immoral?
Attack for humans? Okay, you can get some technology. Okay, then we want some humans.
Well, the military's happy. They got some technology, right?
Yes, you got tech.
So we got our part of the deal, and they may have gotten their part of the deal, which is access to human biomaterial or whatever it is we're potentially giving them, right? Or humans, for that matter, live humans. You never know. You never know what the military can go ahead and sign away.
I don't think the average person would agree to that, Thomas.
Oh, I don't agree with any of that, honestly. I don't think the government should have any right to go ahead and sign a deal with a non-human intelligence going ahead and signing away or signing a death warrant for humanity.
Do you think that non-American citizens and people who are outside of the United States would get very angry if they knew this was happening?
Well, I think humanity in general, my friend, would get angry, whether or not they're in the United States or anywhere in the world, because if they're signing a death sentence for humans to become part of the Petri dish. But here is the thing, Nick. If these things can control space and time, they can stop time. They can come and take whoever they want and do whatever they want to them. And some of them they put back, some of them they don't. We can't stop them, right? Like a farmer going and taking some of the pigs and shipping them off to market, right? We can't stop that. The pigs couldn't stop that no more than we can stop it. So we may think there's an agreement, but there's more of something, more of an appeasement than an agreement. Ashes, you have your hand up, my friend.
Hi, everybody. Missed ya.
Missed you too. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So I was thinking, what if we are, like you said, trading technology to get seated? Like, even if they're not taking our whole bodies and like eating them, what if they're like taking parts of us to try to create medicine or just farm us like animals?
Well, everyone in the world has been putting a lot of weight on. You never know. They could be getting us ready for harvest.
They could. I mean, we're not. Sometimes as humans, I think that we think that we're at the top of the food chain, but that's not always true.
Well, Lou Elizondo has said we're not at the top of the food chain in reference to the non-human intelligence, and that statement, which he's made several times in the past, is a bit concerning, I would say, to a lot of people.
Well, even if you go out swimming and you have a cut on yourself and you're out in the ocean, it's going to attract a bunch of sharks, right?
Or some kind of fish, yeah. You ever seen a whale poop in the ocean?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, there's a ton of fish going and feeding. They feed off of everything.
They do. I mean, people feed. We eat anything as people. What makes us think that NHI aren't going to try to, eat us? And I bet you we're tastier when we eat gourmet food.
Now, here's the thing. Everyone used to talk about people getting taken away and a lot of shit going on, right? What if part of the agreements to stop them from going and abducting humans, at least in the United States, was for us to go ahead and provide all the fetal tissue, or a lot of it, coming out of abortions?
Oh, that is true. That is something that could be possible because stem cells are very valuable. And
Yes,
look
they
at
are.
all the cows and stuff. That
Even from
got-
cows where they're taking their cheek material, where there's a high amount of special stem cells in the cheeks, and they're completely cut out on those cows that have gone out for alien barbecues.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like cows too. Who doesn't like a good steak?
Oh yeah, we got some good ribeyes in the refrigerator from Costco the other day. Can't wait to have that later today.
I mean, who's to say that aliens don't like it either? NHI or whatever.
Yeah,
wanna
I have a feeling though we don't taste like steak. We taste more like pork.
isn't that what one of those serial killers said? We taste like pork or something. That's weird.
I haven't heard that, but I'm just thinking how many people. Never mind. Never mind
Well, we
what people.
sweat and it's salty, so there you go. We probably taste like bacon.
Who doesn't love bacon? You know, I saw a video today on X when I was going through some stuff. It's called a messy version of bacon, where they take the entire side of bacon and they put it in a big pot. Now, the problem was the pot that they had was actually covered in nonstick, very dangerous, a lot of chemicals going to get in your bacon. But they just threw it in there and kept on moving it all around, and it just turned into this nice, big, huge, like bird's nest of perfectly good bacon. They took it and they shook it, put it off to the side. Now, I'm coming where I've got, and where I work, they have a cafeteria where the bacon is like by the frickin' pan, and when you go out to get some good breakfast, you can get as much bacon as you want, and as long as you have a little bit of non-bacon in there, it's not by the piece.
Well, I got a little fat on me, so I might taste like pork belly.
Yeah, pork belly cooked with a little bit of sesame oil and some salt, phenomenal.
Yep, there you go. I'm good.
Thank you.
All
I
right,
appreciate
I'll let
it.
you go to the next person. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
indulging.
Andy W., your hand is up, my friend. What say you?
Yeah, apart from these bloody internet issues I'm having tonight, I'm going to go back to what Nick was saying. You know, if there was some form of deal done with, one side of these NHI, these alien entities, whatever you want to call them, then potentially, if we're now, according to Rick, talking to possibly, no, there's at least 9 of these creatures, these things, out there, then potentially you've only done a deal with one of them. So the rest of them, happy days. But Nick asked, I wonder what people from around the world would say. Well, yeah, as somebody from the UK, I wouldn't be at all happy with any deals done, especially in the 50s. And everybody, even you Americans, shouldn't be. That's 50, 60, 70 years ago. Any deals that were done then, are they going to hold up today? Are we going to hold up to our side of the bargain? Are they going to hold up to their side of the bargain? And as you were just talking about bacon, we had a wonderful bacon butty I cooked for tea tonight.
Yeah.
Can't
But
beat the
I hear
stuff.
the bacon in the UK holds nothing against the bacon from America.
Oh, you call it, well, we call it streaky bacon, which is what you Americans
But
have.
ours is like cured in sugar and salts and all this different stuff. It gets nice and crisp, has such a wonderful flavor.
Oh, ours is what you call Canadian bacon, I believe,
It's
from what
more
I've been
like
watching
ham.
of these.
A little bit gamey.
Yeah, so.
But rumor has it you do have Wendy's in the United Kingdom, and if you go to Wendy's and get the Baconator, it's actual real American-style bacon.
I don't know if there's a Wendy's. There's certainly not one in my part of the universe.
In Birmingham,
so-
there is. At least there was. I think it may have shut down, but there may be one close to you as well. You'll have to look. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
I get
Maybe
fast
have a
food
look.
reports from Gary all the time.
Yeah, apart from if you're Five Guys in the UK now, in certain places, you're not going to get a good bacon butty or anything like that. So
King Bull, King Bull says the bacon here in the UK tastes better. For me, it tastes more gamey, like you're eating a wild pig, not a regular pig. And tastes better. My friends have gone to the Americas and said it's thick and doesn't taste as good. However, I have it on good information from other friends who are from the UK who have traveled to the United States to say our bacon is like holy.
I've never been to your fair country, so I can't claim to anything, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, you're not going to find a lot of good bacon in Birmingham.
Disclosure on bacon tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Luke, I need some bacon, but he just took the dogs. Tia, what say you, my dear lady? Thank you for being here today.
I wanted to tell Nick that our country is so young. If there were countries that made deals to take people, that had to have gone back centuries. So
No, I would say
think we'd probably be like the last one on the totem pole.
yeah. They may have been doing it for the longest time until we got some of their technology. We got too advanced and like, shit, we got to work with these freaking monkeys who like to throw not shit at each other, but missiles. You never know. Actually, all right. Alice W., your hand is up next.
Yeah, hi. I'm on the FBI.gov site right now in their vault. Have you seen all the UFO documents in there yet?
Is it the FBI or is it the CIA reading room?
It says vault.fbi.gov.
Well, it's probably been a while. Maybe.
Well, I was looking up something else and I came across this document that explains the origin of man and the animals, the first animals here and then the second. Would you like me to share any of this? Or should I send it to you and then you can put it up?
Yeah, let's check it out and we'll cover it on a future time. Yeah, it's interesting if they're going back and retelling the stories of the Bible. Sounds like.
Yeah, this is United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Denver, Colorado, April 26, 1960. And that's when this document is from. And it goes through about who Jesus was, how Jesus got here, who Mary was.
Why?
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, but what about all the stories coming out of India with Vishnu and everyone, which predates Christianity by thousands of years?
Ooh, that's a good, yeah. You know what? I'm not as good as you guys as telling what's real or not real. But this is saying that it was the origin of Adam, and the space people were are actually Adam, and then they mated with intelligent, upright creatures on Earth. That was the race called Eve. So it's a pretty interesting. And then Mary was actually a female alien that was brought here and already impregnated with Jesus.
Wow, they actually threw all of Christianity under the bus. Interesting.
Would you like me to send it?
Yeah, send it across. Well, it's something to go ahead and read in the casual reading room, my friend.
It's interesting.
Yeah, sounds like
So it also says that there was an agreement made with the aliens too. So this is going back into the early 60s that there was an agreement made, or even earlier. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. TVT, your hand is up next.
Hey, how you doing, Thomas? It's been a minute. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to add to the Hannibal Lecter meat conversation we were having. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard, but they can engineer human meat for human consumption, and that has been happening. Now, whether or not that's continuing to happen, I don't know. But
where they're like taking blood cells and stuff and getting it to go ahead and generate meat, and you can go ahead and eat that. Yeah, but it's
the possibility of what we're capable of. You know what I mean?
Well, they're able to take skin cell tissues, right, and directly turn them into stem cells that develop into brain cells. So we've kind of figured out a lot of this stuff about DNA and a lot of ways to how do you take normal cells, get them back, turn into stem cells, and then get that stuff to turn into like brains that start to grow. They call them brain organoids. Scary stuff. But yeah, we do have the kind of the fake meat that's out there. Luckily, that's losing popularity instead of growing popularity.
From what I've seen, there was a guy that did it. He cooked up a human steak that was engineered at like a restaurant, and they ate it, and he said it was like the best meat he's ever had in his life.
It sounds like an influencer who was paid, or they just wanted to go ahead and get it out there. You know, or either that or the person was vegan and they finally decide they wanted to eat meat.
Yeah, like I said, it's all Hannibal Lecter stuff to me.
Oh gosh, yes, my friend, absolutely. Let's move on to Tia Marie before we move on to a interview over on askapol.com with HPSCI ranking member Jim Hines talking about David Grush, where he said, quote, I took very seriously some of the allegations. Watched anything about David Grush, so it's kind of like got another person in Congress talking out his ass. Let's get to you, Tia Marie, my dear lady. What say you?
I wanted to add something here I seen about religion, right? Christianity, to Alice. So men, okay, have not always been obviously, like they say all men lie. We know that's not true, but some do. And maybe that
and I knew I had an ex-wife named Maria who lied compulsively.
Well, maybe Adam lied about Eve and ate the apple, okay, and that's why the Adam's apple got stuck in the male's throat.
Let's genetically alter humans because they ate the apple.
Well, instead of us women happening, to be punished for life, maybe the Adam's apple is a punishment somehow. We just don't know it yet. That's interesting because they've made women the cornerstone of,
if you look at the Muslim religion, the men can kick back, they can open up their legs, relax, they can be all nice and relax and not have to worry about stuff, can dress however they want, but the women are persecuted and must sit there and completely cover themselves and sit with perfect posture, going ahead and, if you want to call it, vilifying the women compared to the men.
Oh, absolutely. And then they take little boys and treat them like they're teenage girls, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, one is for fun, the other one's for having kids.
Yeah, or they're killing them, and that's the truth. So I just thought it was another, it's another way to look at it, as we really just don't know how much is true, right? I mean, I'm sure maybe he did lie. Maybe he wasn't supposed to eat the apple. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they ate it together. Who knows?
Or maybe the story is just literally a story trying to retell something we didn't understand in the first place.
Right. And maybe it wasn't an apple. It was a fig. You ever heard that one?
Oh, I've got some figs upstairs right now. I guess I should go eat one. Lots of sugar will make you break out, but they're really good.
I love figs personally.
Absolutely. We've been buying them at Costco lately. Let's go ahead and bring up TV. I've been a Costco member since like 1995. When they were initially priced Costco back in the day. TVT, your hand is up, my friend. What say you?
Yeah, Thomas, you were talking about time, stopping time and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a conversation with someone who said something to me that totally blew my perception of our reality. Now, just stick with me for a second. Think it over and then just tell me what you think. If the past
Hold on one second really
gone,
quick. Rick Shaw, you just try to join the back. Do not join the back in companion mode. I will not let you in. Go ahead, TV.
Okay. Sorry. So if the past is gone and the future hasn't happened, does that mean the present does not exist?
But what if they say the present, past, and future exists all at the same time? You've heard that one before.
Yeah. I mean, our perception, and I was thinking about it, if our perception is something that happens after the present, we're actually perceiving the past. It's not the present. I don't know. It was just something that kind of made me think, wow.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for that.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, the whole thing about time, how it works, where are we at now versus the past, the present, and is it something that all happens at once, or who knows. But yes, anything we perceive of what happened literally just happened in the past, because we're seeing it in the now, but the now quickly becomes the new, like KNEW, right? Daryl Zernick, your hand is up, my friend. What say you?
I just wanted to say, Devil's on Horseback. Figs wrapped in bacon are amazing. That was
I've never had that. I've had jalapenos with cream cheese inside wrapped in bacon. That's good, but I've never had figs around. Do you wrap? Okay, so you take the bacon raw, and do you cook it around the already dried out fig, or do you use a fresh fig?
I'm going to have to put that recipe in the back. I think there's one in there with. I think I've seen it with goat cheese, herb goat cheese, and fig and bacon wrapped. I'll put it in the back.
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Sergeant Daniel, your hand is up.
Yeah, so as far as the time thing, if you're a time traveler and you have access to all timelines, you in effect have access to all the timelines. So you pulled yourself, they say there's some kind of a time, just, they do something with time. Well, if you have access to all time, well, then everything's happening at the same time.
Now, do they have access to go into the past, or is their craft within our reality, but the outside of the craft is running at a different time, and the inside of the craft is running at a different time frame or speed from the outside of the craft. So inside versus outside. So if I'm a human and I go into that craft, potentially, am I going to age slower, or am I going to age faster as a human because I went inside that craft? And I think some of the stuff that was talked about in the past by people who had multi-day, if you want to call it, abductions, I think they had it to where their beard was growing faster than if they weren't in the craft, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that if there was actual time travel and they actually, that would be how they would be able to stay ahead of things. They would be able to monitor, they'd be 10 steps ahead of you all the time. You'd never be able to pull one over on them for sure, Yeah. I mean, they'd know how to stop anything that's coming their way to interfere with what they're doing. So, I think that they probably they can pull themselves out of the timeline. That way they can access any part in time anytime they want. So they're, to them, all time's happening all at once.
Yeah, that could be. That could definitely be the way of what's going on. Let's move on to Tia Marie next. Something.
I was gonna ask about the time. So when I had my near-death experience, and I noticed time was like an awareness, perception, like when it just expands, and what it reminded me of was like when you learn about space for the first time, and you're young, and you realize that space just keeps going, and it's like a huge ride, and it's just going really fast in the darkness.
Yes.
That is exactly what it felt like when you went outside of time. It was almost like after, when you're not here in the in your body, you step outside of time, right? Time stops for you because it's now just an awareness. Like as soon as you want to ask a question that you're curious about, before you get the question out of your mind that you don't have, because you're just energy at that point, that whatever it is, you already have that answer. You are outside of time. We are the ones that are stuck in time. But I still don't understand how you can go to a different planet and turned out to be 500 years old. I don't understand how that happens.
Yeah, I guess this comes down to one of the situations. I do very heavy duty meditation, 3 to 4 mornings a week for going on for a period of time. And talking about time, one of the things that I put myself into is to go ahead and realize as I'm getting to the deep set of meditation that the time and space that I deal with my body is different than the time and space that I deal with when I'm in deep meditation or remote viewing or something. Laura, have you ever dealt with something like that as you're going through your meditation or any of the different states from the people you've been working with, where people knowingly go ahead and put themselves into an accelerated consciousness that's disconnected from the reality of what our human body is stuck with?
Yes, and that's why when you do the remote viewing and you're tasking it, you can't be involved in doing it because somebody always has to stay just in the present moment and not in that altered state.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's something that I deal with on a regular basis, but it's something that it sounds like it's part of the norm per se.
Hmm. And some people, everybody gets to that altered state differently. Some people actually have it happen to them accidentally. For example, while riding a bike, they'll suddenly have an out-of-body experience and then they have to jump back in right away or it would be very bad. And the way they get to that state, some people meditate differently as well. Some people don't meditate at all. Some people had it from childhood. Some people develop it later. It's a big mixed bag.
Can I ask you something real quick? So I wonder then, with what you just said, when I seen that I don't even know what it was, but that shadow person, could that have been me? Not because I don't know how to meditate. I just don't, because my brain goes 5 million miles an hour. It's terrible. But is there a possibility that maybe I like went from, I don't know, like somewhere else for a minute and that didn't happen in my physical reality?
I don't know that if you went out, but I think the near-death experience that you had caused a change in your frequency somehow, and that kind of connection to the other side. Like children too, they'll have a lot of memories of past lives, but then it fades as they go get older. You had that near-death experience, so you tapped that other side, allowing you to have that expansion and your ability to see that particular being. And I think we looked at that a while ago and determined it was just a being that was friendly. But yeah, you just have that ability, Tia. And I think if you worked on it more, you'd probably be able to do more and see more things.
Interesting.
I'm wondering, maybe you're right. Because of the, you know what, my ears, they ring a lot, and it's they pop almost like I'm underwater a lot. And I notice it happens a lot, when times are different. So I'm just wondering if maybe that was a possibility. That just like a light bulb went off in my head when you said that. All right, thank you.
Yep.
A lot of times when I do meditation, Laura, I'll go out and it feels like an hour or two has passed. But when I come out of it, it's like, okay, I'm back in the body again. I can usually guess the time within a minute or two to know the exact time. I'll pull out my phone, look at the time, and the time that I guess, I'm either right on it or I know, or I'm within a minute or two. So I have the awareness of how much time has passed, although I've been in there what feels like for an eternity. But when you pop out, you just know exactly where you're at.
And there seems to be time distortions with a lot of that activity. We're currently, I can't get into a lot of the details, but working with sound meditation devices and taking notes and seeing everybody's response to it. And some people have out-of-body experiences. I did not. But there's always the question, how long did that feel to you? How long did it feel this way? And some people, it feels like it speeds up. Other people, it slows down. It's very interesting.
I guess it just comes into your mind knowing that there is a time dilation difference between when you're going through the meditative state versus going through what's actually past in the reality state. It's just,
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. Also, let's go on next to Alice. Alice, say you. Great conversations today, everybody.
Thomas, I just wanted to let you know that should be in your email now. I did get it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alice.
You're welcome.
Info Red. What say you? Oh, not saying anything. Put down his hand. All right, let's go ahead and move on.
Sorry, I'm here. Bro.
Okay.
What's
Your
going
hand
on?
up? I don't know. You had your hand up. You had a question, or you wanted to bring something up.
Yeah. No. Basically, what I was trying to say was, if we can tell in Hadron Collider that entropy happens in a polarized vacuum because
I think you've got some audio on in the background. We can hear it bleeding through your conversation.
yeah, sorry, let me turn my TV down a bit.
Good idea.
So basically, the reason why quantum mechanics exists is because there is a force that is interacting in a collider called entropy. So that is suggesting that there is a dimension that we can't see, and that is on a macroscopic scale that sort of changes and interacts with reality, and that's the reason why quantum mechanics exists. But there is also, like, supposedly there is like 11 dimensions to this, and I was wondering, my question was, do you think the other 11 dimensions are metaphysical rather than actual reality?
I would think, well, I don't know, potentially. Now, we should, through right meditation, other stuff, you can, if you want to call it, get to different levels of consciousness and get to different levels of getting into potentially other dimensions. But I think a lot of it comes down to trying to describe things we don't exactly understand. We talk about quantum mechanics. We talk about spooky things at a distance. Talk about having things that are tied together where you have one thing goes on here, goes off over there. Remember, we have heard in the past with regards to, where's am I going to go with this one? With regards to we're doing nuclear explosions here, but it's ripping holes in another dimension. Is it because we're quantumly entangled between our world and another world? We don't know. We're still in the first stages of getting our feet in the water on this one. We can try and get there, but I'm not going to accept or even put a number of how many dimensions it could potentially be out there, because that would say that humans know so much, we understand everything, when really we understand a grain of sand of information in a world of a desert. That makes sense.
That is so very true, and I think you're absolutely right. We're only sort of still verging into a fourth dimension at the moment. That's where our venture is. Well, the fifth, I guess, because of time, but it's the manipulation of those energies that we're going to open up more of these dimensions, I think.
Well, if we can open them up and understand it and see it and measure it and everything, great. But until then, it's all just, a bunch of conversations we're having without a lot of proof of anything, kind of like what we'll be doing with the whole UFO investigation. There's a lot of conversations going out and not a lot of physical evidence or just evidence in general for us to tie to. If we can, I want to go ahead and jump to, we've got a story here coming in from Askapol UAPs, where he actually has an interesting interview going on with ranking member Jim Himes talking about David Grush. Let's listen to what Matt Laszlo has captured on audio, and let's talk about it critically. On that note, let me go ahead and bring up the picture on this one, and I will start the audio of Jim Himes getting interviewed by Matt Laszlo. Here And I apologize if the audio is not good up front. I don't control Matt Laszlo's audio, and I've tried to give him feedback about improving his audio, but he just gets really snippy and really pissed about it. So let's just listen to it and try and figure it out together. Here we go.
Hey, how are you? Hey, how's it going? I have a question for you. What is it? Can you think of a better rock anthem than the Cranberries' Zombie? Seriously, it's like stuck in my head right now.
Dude, I got Taylor Swift stuck in my head. NPR played it.
Which one?
Some T Swift song.
Sorry, what's your question?
It's for NPR. They can throw off your day.
You listen to NPR?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have NPR's
God,
NPR. Bureau in D.C. Regional Bureau. Does the name David Grush ring a bell to you?
Yeah.
What do you make of one of your colleagues, Eric Burleson, hiring him on his staff?
Oh, I didn't know that was. I didn't know that was. Yeah.
He did not know that David Grush. Okay, that makes sense. Not like he's collaborating.
You can go and meet
Because I guess he didn't have his clearance or lost it, and they're hoping that he gets his clearance restored and that they could get him in a skiff with the Arrow people and some of these others. What do you make of that?
So he's asking questions with regards to David Grush getting into a skiff with Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, etc., along with Tim Burchett and what's the other name? Anna Polina Luna and Eric Burleson. And that's what he's referring to. So again, this is almost as bad as me trying to listen to programmers in China and Taiwan, and English is their second or third language. You just have to close your eyes and just listen to the words. And I know it's hard, but there is a conversation in it somewhere. Let's continue.
Well, so I don't have particular thoughts on Grush. I took
no thoughts on Grush. Apparently, he didn't read the Cliff Notes.
Very seriously some of the allegations he had, and Arrow and others investigated. And I don't see any evidence that there was any sweeping of things under the carpet. I asked specifically.
Oh my God. There you go. I need to make myself bigger on this one. There you go, everybody. He's already saying, I don't think there's anything here. There's not a there. There's nothing that makes his allegations worthy.
You know why? I can tell you why. Because Jim Himes is with Mike Turner. He was one of the key people who were against disclosure the entire time. But Turner's gone now. So now it's Jim Himes that's cleaning up the mess. He's never going to sit there and say anything positive about David Grush. But that's to be expected, I think.
Mike, how's the washing machine? Is it dead? Are you going to replace it with an LG?
No. I'm going to repair it.
Did you find did you figure out what model it is?
No, but here's what happened. The two inlet hoses that had to be replaced.
Yeah.
They are connected to the soap dispenser, which is made out of plastic.
Yeah.
And when I went to remove the rubber hoses,
it broke.
It snapped off. Yes, it broke. Exactly. You know.
Oh, you're fucked. It's not fuck you Friday, it's fuck you Saturday.
Yes. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Followed by fuck you Sunday and Monday.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, and now this is going to be 4 times expensive as an initial.
Oh, just go ahead and buy an LG. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no. They want way too much money.
A new LG is not bad.
Cheap fix.
Just don't get
not cheap either.
About $1,000, $800.
Yeah. I'd rather spend half that and fix what I got.
Yeah,
so that's where I'm at with this. Yeah, it sucks, but that's the day I'm having, which you already know. But
are you off getting parts at this point? I hear you.
No, I am so pissed today. You have no idea. I'm fucking hopping mad. This never should have happened. But then I found out that it's actually a common thing.
Yeah.
And that's why this part is always available. And they want a lot of money for it because they know you need it.
$75? Or $45?
No, what are you kidding me? No.
It's called engineered obsolescence, Mike.
Yes, absolutely it is. No, they want a few $100. This is no piece of cake, easy way out. So, but I'm going to do it because what choice do I have, really?
Go get an
I
LG,
don't.
have it delivered tomorrow, and you're done.
No, they want a hell of a lot of money, and it won't be delivered tomorrow. No, I'm going to have to do my own repairs, which you're very familiar with, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, a special kind of engineering we talk about all the time.
Yes, it is. But getting back to Himes, yeah, he's on the anti-disclosure panel, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust or take anything that comes out of his mouth.
Well,
Laszlo should have known that before he started questioning him.
it is Matt.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's
So,
move on.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
move.
Let's move on.
Thanks for joining us, Mike. Let's jump in on this here. Let's hear the rest of this conversation.
Questions about his specific testimony, and a lot of what he had was, first of all, hearsay, if you will. He wasn't his personal experience, and secondly,
hearsay. I love it.
A lot of this is misinterpretation of real things.
Oh, it's misinterpretation. Grush didn't know what he was looking at, what he was hearing about. It's all just prosaic, Mike.
It's disinformation, Thomas. That's what he's going to claim, that this is second and third hand information from Grush, nothing direct, nothing firsthand. He's going to blow it off, just like I'm
it
sure
sounds
Arrow
like
will after the
sounds
skip.
like Mike. He's had the. He's a fist puppet at this point.
Well, he has been for a long time, and he's a Democrat. So it's bipartisan, the anti-disclosure movement in Congress, not just partisan for pro-disclosure. It goes both ways.
Oh, my God. Where is good old Fathead Ford when he has the opportunity to rail against a Democrat? He goes
Sorry,
silent.
Thomas and Mike.
Yeah.
What I just need to ask.
Sure.
This guy is like an advocate for disclosure, right? This is what I'm hearing. But am I right in thinking that the American people don't trust the disclosure of these people? Or would you like it as a separate entity? Do you sort of run by a trusted people?
No, this guy's a schmuck. He's paid for by the military deep state.
Yeah, the
Bought
industrial
and paid
complex.
for, right, Mike?
That's correct, Thomas. That's what it is, Info. This is someone who's involved in our government, in the legislative branch, who is anti-disclosure, not pro-disclosure. And he had his comrades in arms. One of them was Representative Mike Turner, formerly on the House Permanent Select Intelligence Committee, who was anti-disclosure the entire time. So he's just now mimicking and repeating things that Mike Turner used to say. So I wouldn't take anything that comes out of Jim Himes'
Mike,
mouth
you know what we're
at
seeing
all.
there on his lips?
Oh, God.
He is sucking the cock of the military deep state for too much. It's chapping his lips.
Yeah, looks that way.
Tight-lipped stiff in a suit. That's such a cliche.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh,
but
God.
that's why anything that's coming out of his mouth, I would completely dismiss. Not take it, pay no mind to it. Don't take it seriously. He's anti-disclosure, as is Arrow, which again, Thomas and I were talking about the other day. Why are these people going into a skiff with Arrow? It does not make any sense. And it's not like they're not aware of it. They've been railing against Arrow from day one. I know Lou has. And
So
so was
what do you
Grush.
think? Sorry, Mike. What do you
Go ahead.
think? What do you think is going on?
Like, what the hell are they doing there? I honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It could be a psyop thing, like to gain control of minds and stuff. Really,
We're not dealing with a psyop. We're dealing with a buyout going on where members of Congress are paid over extraordinary amounts of money to go ahead and change their opinion. It doesn't come down to representing the people in their district. It comes down to representing the large corporations and people of special interest that go ahead and fund all and throw all the money at these individuals to get them to talk the way that they're talking.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's what we're up against. But again, it goes back to the original point. I don't know why people like David Grush, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon are going to be sitting down with Arrow. Arrow is the last place on earth that you would expect to find these people. They know better. But they're doing it in April anyway. I have no idea why. No clue. Makes no sense, because anything that they say is going to get buried. We're not going to hear
Well, it
about
depends. They do have a new boss now. And that new boss
Kozlowski.
may be different and have a different directive than the schmucks that came from the Biden administration who were in place for all those years. Granted,
Like
we still
Kirkpatrick.
have good old Susan Goff, but...
Yep. She hasn't been fired.
Oh, God.
She's still at her job.
Do you think maybe then that it could be something really, really simple, like these people know that conspiracy theories sell, and that is the way that they're going to generate their sort of personal...
It's like apples and oranges, two completely different things, info. Having Grush and Mellon and Elizondo testify in a skiff to Arrow, going to go nowhere. I don't know what they hope to accomplish with that. And as far as anything coming out of Jim Himes' mouth, he's trying to sweep everything back under the rug. Two different things that's going on right now. That's what it is. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's like dynamics, isn't it? Really, like there's ulterior motives going on everywhere that are sort of combining as well, which is flipping difficult for. So I didn't swear, I promise. But that's difficult for somebody to look into these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Well, listen, here's the simple answer, and Thomas has been saying this for the longest time. If we're going to get actual disclosure from our government, it has to come from the top down. Right, Thomas?
100%. We've been calling out the executive branch before anybody else did for the longest time. Because if you look at what's going on with the overall UFO disclosure, it all aligns up to the executive branch. Now, what we've heard is some presidents in the past may have been read into it and some may have not been read into it. But the truth of the matter is it comes down to this program is well, let me quiet off syrup. Syrup, need to mute yourself. I'll do it for you. Here we go. All right. It comes down to is this program is run out of the executive branch because the executive branch has a continuity of government that goes from administration to administration to administration, whether you're Republican or Democrat, from whoever's coming into office. So there is a mechanism or there is an organization within the executive branch that continues in perpetuity, right, Mike? That's what we've been talking about.
Plus, we also found out with the Immaculate Constellation Special Access Program that it was actually run not out of the DOD, it was run out of the White House.
Right.
Presidential SAP.
And that was,
right,
and
Thomas?
finally, that's what we covered earlier today. The Liberation Times is finally caught up to what we've been talking about for the last 6 months to a year, Mike.
Oh, longer than that. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
This has
at
been
least.
going on for some time. Yeah. Nothing new with this. And this is from going back to the previous administration.
And you just have to take a step back and look at this to see, well, how does this stuff work? How is it orchestrated? And that's what I saw back in that time, was that it's all the executive branch. It's all there. There's no, they want to keep out the secrecy. They want to keep out the congressional oversight. They want to make it work. The best place to hide it is in the executive branch, right, Mike?
Oh, yeah. It's unfoilable. The DOD could deny it like Susan Goff is good at doing. And we won't get a shred of information on it, not publicly.
Oh, yeah.
Not unless somebody comes out, like Jeremy Corbell's friend, who was the author of the Immaculate Constellation Report. That was it. But that got quiet. He was supposed to bring that individual out. That never happened.
So guys, can I also
Mike,
ask?
we've got you mentioned her name enough times.
Oh, God, please don't. Oh
no. What is that? What is it?
What is that? That's Susan Goff. That's when you hear hello, Susan, at the start of the show. This is the woman who was in charge of oh God, we just got taken out.
Under her skirt and grab hold of a tree trunk.
It actually looks like a Wookiee, doesn't it? It looks like a Wookiee. But anyway, what I was going to say was, so do you think that the information that is controlled by a certain sort of left or right side, or whatever you call it, the Constitution, or the Democrats or Republicans, could it be like a governmental disagreement that doesn't allow disclosure to go ahead?
Yeah, no, they don't want disclosure. There's a certain part of the government, that's the deep state, that the current administration has been railing against and trying to take steps to do something about it, which it looks like to a degree they have been. But that being said, Thomas has said this from day one, all the sitting president would have to do is, with the swipe of a pen, declassify all the information that they've been keeping hidden from the public almost 80 years already. And so far, we haven't seen that happen. Not yet. Hopefully it will at one point.
In 4 years of the Biden administration, Mike, we didn't get shit, did we?
No, from day one, we covered this.
Right,
when
now
he was asked about it, Biden's answer was, talk to Barack, if you remember.
We are a little over 2 months into the Trump administration. Everyone's jumping up and down and saying, oh my God, we're not getting all this information, like Fathead Ford over at Good Trouble Show, right?
Yeah, that's right.
He's like Mr. Anti-Republican, anti-Trump administration, which just makes no sense, because if you're trying to go ahead and get disclosure to happen, coming from an organization like the UAPDF, you need to be not in one party's bed or the other, but it seems like it doesn't matter. He wants to go ahead and rail on it. But the reality of it is we've had 2 months into it. You know, we had 4 years of Biden, didn't give a shit. Just give it a little bit of time, and I think we're going to get there, Mike.
That's actually fascinating. Actually, I think because really as well, Thomas, as we're advancing our communications technology, like we are also wanting like instant confirmation of something, and that's sort of how it's propelling itself as well, because we're sort of always on the edge, like thinking, when is it going to happen, and it will always be like that until it does, I guess.
No, it's not instant. I mean, this secret's been going on 80 years or longer so far. Lou Elizondo came out publicly over 8 years ago. There's nothing instant about this at all. And we got people coming forward that are making these claims about knowledge of a UAP and NHI, but we never get any proof to back any of those claims up. So there's a lot of frustration from the public, but it has nothing to do with wanting instant gratification or answers. Right, Thomas?
Yes, Mike, absolutely. I think I've upgraded Jim's Himes look here a little bit. It's the reality of where we're at, Mike. Let's go ahead and just play the rest of this conversation coming from Jim Himes, which it sounds like it's coming from Susan Goff. That's why I put the picture up there. Let's continue.
Yeah, let's make this light. So, for example, the Air Force has programs, and others have programs that contemplate the possibility that there could be anomalous materials or whatever, but none. To date, I have seen no evidence that any of these programs actually have any evidence whatsoever of any UAP, unusual materials, unusual life forms, etc.
Did you catch his public testimony in front of Oversight?
No.
2023. A lot of what he said and testified, he's like half of it. He said, I can only answer that in a skiff. Like, have you guys on intel? Have you guys heard his allegations? Like, because I think he sat down with the Senate intel staff, but I don't think you guys.
Yeah, I personally have never met him.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple months since I thought about this, and your audience hangs on every word, so I want to be pretty careful.
He's personally never met him, which means he never reached out to him to talk to him after his testimony.
He also didn't answer the question, when Laszlo put it to him and said, "Didn't you hear the testimony back in 2023?" And his answer was giving a completely different answer and said, "I haven't really looked into this. I'm not aware of it." He's trying to blow it off, which is what he does. He's good at it.
Well, I think that's not the only thing he's good at blowing, Mike. Let's play a little bit more. Here we go.
About this.
Yeah, fair.
No, I didn't see the testimony. I've never met him. I've certainly looked at many of his concerns and allegations.
Do you think this could actually be good? Like maybe the people on oversight and this new secrets task force are gonna get some of the information that you already seem to know. Saved by the phone.
This is the Luna thing. Hey, Holly.
All right, let's move on. Laura Campbell, you've had your hand up for a while, my friend.
Yeah, Arrow, long time ago, we did do a little remote view on it. And from the very beginning, even when they started out with that crappy logo that they had, it was somebody did it really in a hurry. Analyzing that, their whole reason for being was to capture and silence information that was brought to them. So honestly, I'm not hopeful with the new person in charge, sadly. I hate the fact that they're there. You might as well throw NASA into the group because, you know, everybody talks about storming Area 51. Well, go ahead and storm NASA because they're sitting on a lot of information. And I think Dr. Jim Green was even saying, he said, people are not ready for contact. He said they would struggle to handle the truth if extraterrestrial life was confirmed.
Oh, my God. The same bullshit we've been hearing for so long,
Yep.
Laura. They're still dishing that shit out.
Yep. So they're making decisions for us. All these organizations that we pay for with our taxpayer money think they know better than their little children. So people need to wake up, and that's what we're here to do. We're trying to wake everyone up to the truth.
Yeah.
And once you know it, you can decide what to do with it, but you got to be told the truth.
I hear you, my friend. It sounds like, Mike, we're not just dealing with nassholes. We're not dealing with massholes. We're dealing with an asshole.
That's true. But I could tell you that when Jim Himes stated that in the past 2 years, he's never heard a word of the testimony that David Grush said publicly, that's a fucking lie. I know that's a fucking lie. Of course he heard it. Everybody's been repeating a lot of the claims that Grush had made 2 years ago all around the world. So the fact that he's in Congress in Washington and he heard nothing about this, not a word, he's completely full of shit. That's what I see.
Mike, can I just run on there? Like NASA is surrounded by some really heavy kind of conspiracy there. You know, when you go into like the foundings of it, you know, after the Second World War, everyone knows like, you know, they recruited a lot of the Nazi kind of scientists over and stuff like that.
Operation Paperclip. I'm familiar with it, info.
There you go. But like, there's Jack Parsons, I think, came up in a conversation in your last show, but he was heavily into the occult, kind of joined the same religion as Aleister Crowley, called Thema or something like that, and they worship their own religion as, I mean, this is all researchable stuff, and I just wonder, like, how that can't be in the realms of like magic and, you know, that kind of like energy sort of synchronization, and because that is fuel. Yeah, thank you, John. But and I just wonder what you think of sort of those kinds of conspiracies, because there is very little that you can do to prove or disprove any of that. And I think that it's remained part of its history is just really quite strange for me, and I just didn't know how anyone else felt about it.
Well, I'll make it simple then for you. This is a scientific question, not a religious one. And when you get in deep into conspiracy theories and it has a religious aspect to it or anything to do with woo or things that can't be backed up or readily proven, you're getting off the subject of what it is that we're talking about in regards to actual disclosure. The simple truth is we're not alone on this planet. There is an advanced intelligence here among us, has been for some time, and all we need is the proof and evidence to support that. That's it. That's true disclosure. Anything beyond that, first we need that before we can go any further. That's my answer on it.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there as well. But kind of, you know, I think, I don't, you guys know Mike Barra. Thomas might even know him, but, you know, one of his books where he said that.
Who?
Mike Barra.
Nope, don't
Mike
know.
Barra. Mike Barra. He does like, he's author, so he's written books on Mars and stuff like that. But basically he, you know, he went into the fact that you know, most of the Apollo 11 team were Freemasons, and that that Buzz Aldrin conducted a ceremony on the moon when they landed, so that a Masonic lodge could be built there on the moon.
Yeah, and let me stop you right there. You're going down a rabbit hole that's not supported by any evidence, and we tend to avoid wasting everybody's time exploring things like that
Well,
that
it's
have
not
no
just really
credibility.
wasting any time. It's just trying to go ahead and stick to the narrative of where reality is at.
Historically, in terms of historically, how we've got to this point, I think we need to still observe the reasons why you know, NASA has conducted these and still conducting these experiments. You know, is it really to find out if we're alone in the universe, or is it some other thing that you're suggesting? Because some people already...
Well, if you want to call it, NASA has tried to do anything to go ahead and say there's no other life out there besides humanity, trying to go ahead and restrict the views, going back to the initial Viking lander that happened back in the 70s when I was a kid, when they actually did go ahead and validate that there was a organisms that was collected by the Viking lander that actually did go ahead and create methane. But they actually went and they did it. They exhausted it, and then they sterilized the sample that they had to ensure that that kind of information couldn't come forward. And the only reason we would have that kind of a method or thing in place to go ahead and deny that there's any other life outside of humanity is potentially because NASA was heavily influenced at that time, and still potentially is, by the military intelligence deep state. Specifically the Air Force, which, if you remember going back a couple of years ago, Mike, there was a great conversation that was going on, and information about the Air Force going ahead and talking about the non-human intelligence like it was angels and demons. Remember that, Mike?
Yeah, but now we're getting into the Collins elite that are very religious, and they have very simple approach toward this subject, and it starts to get heavily into religion. But I don't believe that what we're discussing in regards to disclosure has anything to do with the religious aspect of this.
No, it doesn't. But there are individuals, there are organizations that are involved in disclosure that are trying to put undue influence on the either, if you want to call it, the overall observations that are being made, or the conclusions that are being made of the people who are doing the observing, because there is a tide of potentially religious organizations that are trying to carve this narrative to go ahead and suit their purposes.
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. But again, if we're talking about the Collins elite,
I think that's what Mike's trying to say as well, is that there is these sort of positive and negative things in science as well that we're experiencing, and anomalies, but that shouldn't stop a particular progress of different areas because of an anomaly, and perhaps that's what NASA is doing as well, that they're not focusing on one particular area because they have done so exhaustively. And and I guess that's where this all comes down to your individual belief in what is happening, I guess.
Well, look, the bottom line is that the disclosure and the truth, there are certain members of the government and the military industrial complex that do not want this information to come out publicly. And I'm sure they have a whole laundry list of reasons as to why. But only thing that we're interested in is getting to the truth and having that come out. This goes back to my theory about the bolt, the alien bolt. Something as simple as a bolt or a nut, which is not complicated at all.
They can never bring forward, Mike. They can never go ahead and disclose it.
Correct. That's right. They couldn't say we found a bolt that was not made on this earth.
Even
because if they did, the dam would burst of the questions wanting to know more, and they don't want to deal with that.
Even the molten material that they've had ejected, that they've pulled out of trees and dug out of the ground, that's been come out of the material out of UFOs that actually have the particular composition of metals and the purity that goes off the scale for what humans can create. So there's tons of examples out there, but it just comes down to they can go in the record with regard from the human record, but as far as getting into the professional or accepted record of what the government accepts as real or not, because that's what it really comes into. Look at schools, look at books, look at everything that goes out there. What we're able to get out there and publish is truly defined and restricted on some levels by the government. Look at what they had for the longest time, Mike. There was something called the Adam and Eve theory. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back a long time ago. But now if you follow the theories of evolution, that goes and progresses way beyond the Adam and Eve theory. But with this, basically the bottom line is that we want the truth to come out, and they don't want it to come out because they're afraid of. That's like opening up Pandora's box. The public is going to want to know a hell of a lot more than them simply disclosing we're not alone. It won't end there with that simple statement. It'll go way beyond it. And the powers that be that are in control of these programs and this knowledge do not want that to come out until we get something from the executive branch in the current administration that will at the very least acknowledge for us and for the rest of the planet, the public at large, that we are in fact not alone. And we're waiting to see if we get that. I hope we do.
So kind of what we're talking about is, you've heard it. I've played it on the show many times in the past. I need to go have this video as I can click the button, bring it up. When we had the Space Force about two and a half years ago come out and admit that there are UAP.
Yeah.
That it's in the United States. It's over military bases, over critical infrastructure of the United States. But it's not just here in the United States. It's a global issue. And that they're working with our partners and friends around the world to try and figure out what's going on. And that's the issue. The part of the problem is they're not working with all of humanity. We're only working with our defense partners.
Right.
Which kind of defeats the true importance of maybe we need to put all of humanity together on this, and we need to stop thinking about this as the United States versus China versus Iran versus whatever country we go towards, and say this is a humanity issue, and the only way we're going to be able to figure it out is you figure this out. We've got this piece of the puzzle. We got this piece of the puzzle, and we all bring it in together. Because without it, we're sunk. Because it's like maybe that's the only way we can truly succeed is that what was that movie Invasion? Not Invasion. The God, that was a horrible show on Apple. The one where they had like the squid-like things that would go ahead and put up the what do you call it? Shapes and language up on the screen. That one kind of got into it, and when they realized that the only way everyone had different parts of the puzzle, the only way you can connect to it is for everyone to bring it forward. And I mean, God, I wrote a game design that Warner almost picked up at the time, Times Warner, about the same situation.
Arrival,
yeah. Thank you very much, GBT.
That's the other thing, Thomas. Do you think also that artificial intelligence has access to classified information?
Who's artificial intelligence info? Ours or the government's?
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, the word, there you go. Thank you. That's probably answered the question, but yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, look, the way I see it is it's pretty simple. We're not going to get any type of actual admission from the government unless the claims that David Grush had said publicly 2 years ago, if the current administration follows through with that and is able to produce some evidence to support any of those claims, you'll see how quickly the rest of the world jumps on the bandwagon and everybody starts to change their tune about debunking this entire subject. But until we get that, we're not there yet. The other thing is that right now we have B-2 bombers in Diego Garcia, which is a joint base run by the British military and the U.S. Iran today made a statement that if any of those bombers are launched and strike any Iranian territory, they will attack the United States and Britain, which will begin World War III. And if there's going to be any type of disclosure that will change everybody's attention on an outside force and will maybe unite humanity for the first time, it'll take something like this. So maybe that'll be enough to motivate the current administration to start bringing this information
to
forward.
go on what you're saying right here. I've got the post up here. Oh God, I'm in the wrong freaking browser. Let me go ahead and bring this across. This is the story, I think, what you're talking about.
Yes, that was announced today.
Here we go. That the U.S. deploys B-2, but it's not just the B-2, Mike. It's a B-2 Spirit, which is a new jet fighter. They just announced last year, right?
Yeah, it's a bomber. That is stealth capable.
Right, but it's the next generation that goes beyond what the B-2 had, which is the model I hold up here all the time. It's a modified version of this platform.
The Flying Wing.
The Flying Wing, right. It just has greater capabilities, longer time in the air, even less of a profile of what they're dealing with. So right now we have at least 4 B-2 Spirit bombers. Now, one did have to turn back because it was having mechanical issues flying to where it was going to. So far, 4 out of 5 B-2 Spirit bombers, which is 25% of our nuclear-capable fleet. Again, the word nuclear capable for a reason there, have moved to Diego Garcia, a remote U.S. military base in the Indian Ocean, south of India and Sri Lanka. Now, satellite images confirmed the deployment, signaling a major escalation in U.S. strategic positioning. Diego Garcia is a critical launch point for operations across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, making this move impossible to ignore. And what do they have to go along with it, Mike? There's actually, let me go ahead and get this full screen here. Here we go. They've got up with there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the B-2 Spirits being deployed at this point in Diego Garcia.
Correct.
You gotta look at the bunkers up top right there. There's B-2s in those too. There's 7 to 9 there, from what I've heard.
Interesting.
See it?
Yeah, we got the buildings. Yeah, the building's
They're
right up here.
there, too.
Yeah.
And Iran is threatening to launch against Britain and the United States if we take any action. So we're getting pretty close to the brink. If the current administration wants to unify the planet, they need to start bringing this information out so we know that there's something else that we need to focus on that's bigger than us. And I hope this might be enough to motivate them to do that. We'll see.
So, what you're talking about potentially, Mike, is a psychological operation that we can pull off on the world to get our ideas off of blowing ourselves up into going ahead and protecting the planet. Gee, Mike, I have to ask the question, who do you think could be the best person to pull off that psyop?
Well, I don't know if it's a psyop. I know that Reagan talked about this in his UN meeting back in
Mike,
85.
you haven't looked at the
we covered that.
you haven't looked at the screen, have you?
Oh, yeah, I see that. My erection is never going to come back again thanks to that picture. No, it's not Susan Goff. It's the fact that we need to unify the planet. The only real way to do it is to let everybody know that it's not just us down here. It's something beyond us that we need to focus our attention on. And we're getting close to where we may not have a choice.
Hey, Mike.
If we get into World War III.
Right
What is
here.
it? Yeah.
I hate war, coming from Kelly. I think that is the biggest unifying statement everybody could say right now.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And
Reagan
thank you
said
for
it.
making that, Kelly.
If there was a threat that's beyond us from outer space or anywhere else, we would unify the planet. And I believe that he was right. It would. We would stop focusing on each other and our petty differences and now look at the big picture.
Mike, but are you suggesting that we need a one world government, or that we need to just like make some kind of unified agreement pact, but we still separate? Because I still feel like as long as there's borders, we're going to continue to have our traditional human domestic dramas with each other.
Yeah,
But
well, I
one
haven't
wo-
taken it that far. All I'm suggesting is that everybody play nice with each other all around the planet. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
I agree with you 100%, but I think the only way that that's going to become reality is with a one world government. But there's too many people that wouldn't go along and be willing to lose power in order to achieve
one
that.
world government. It's not something we need, but if
No, it's listen. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And if we're on the brink of another world war, we really need to have this information
coming
come
from
out
a
and then figure it
president,
out.
but it's also coming from a president.
I agree. I'm the last one that wants war. I'm the last one that also wants to be a one world government. But at the same time, if that's going to be the only thing that prevents war, I got to go for the one world government.
Well, no, how about if you have a bunch of governments that are there, Abe, but you have a unified front,
right,
on something?
coalition.
So you have
I
that
agree.
all autonomy for everything else, but on one thing, we're all in this together.
But you're right, and that's
Isn't
what I'm
there
saying. Is
God,
that
there's
is
a
that
song
the
from
solution?
High School
Because it's got to include all citizens of the planet, and I mean all citizens of the planet aren't always represented by large governments.
Yeah.
But I agree. We need to come
In
together and
the
stop fighting
chat,
each
really
other.
quick in the chat, Aviam says the UN are good for nothing, obsolete institution. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I think it's really interesting that what you were just talking about really is probably going to happen sooner than we think, because we will have to make up these laws that protect humans from like optimized robots like Tesla robots and stuff like that. I mean, that's where iRobot and Isaac Asimov like wrote that book, you know, from his understanding of astrophysics, you know.
Right.
Well, listen, we're pretty close to the brink, and I'll tell you why. We had that signal chat leak that came out that we're planning on more strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. The current administration is going to continue to move forward on that front. There's no doubt. And now Iran is drawing a line in the sand and saying that if you do, we're going to fire back. If that actually happens, we're in smack dab in the middle of the Third World War, which nobody wants or needs. So as we approach this, and I don't know yet how that's going to work out, we've already, as a thought experiment, gotten our answer about disclosure.
What, Mike?
And it goes back to what Reagan said, because this was during the height of the Cold War, mind you, in the 80s.
Yeah.
And when Reagan was talking in the UN, and then he had a private meeting with the president of Russia, he asked him, if there is an outside threat against the human race, will you fight with us? Will you stand with the United States?
Saying as far as in regards to the UFOs, right? That's not a secret. And so he's still not backing down, and he's still doing his own separate drama. It's a threat, and he knows it's not coming from the United States. So why not now start that agreement
I'll tell you
process?
why. I'll tell you why. Because like with the drones that we recently have been dealing with, and the government has no information on it, and like anybody that when you ask that works for the government about UFOs, they tell you it would be Frank Kendall III, who was in charge of the Air Force. When he was asked why the Air Force has no information on this, they obviously should be aware of it. There's a long history. His answer is there's no conceivable threat that we're aware of.
Sorry about the loss in signal, everybody. With network connection dropped here about 30 seconds ago. It was down for like 10 to 15 seconds. It was a piece of blank audio, and they didn't see what was going on because the connection dropped. It's fixed. Everything's back up now. Some little bit small number of people left, but Mike, sorry about that. I just want to let the audience know. Sorry, we fixed it.
Technical difficulties.
You had the clip about Reagan, and I wanted to go ahead and bring up the Reagan stuff that I've had, but I had the two, if you want to call it, bays of 8 hard drives turned off. It has all my data on it, so
right.
I have it to play now. Yeah.
It's not a big deal, and we played it 1,000 times on the show already. So I'm sure people are familiar with that from over 40 years ago. But to answer your question, Abe, why wouldn't Putin deal with it now? Because he believes, like members of our government believe, there's no conceivable threat yet from an outside force, and they're not taking it seriously or feel there's any direct need to act upon it.
Right.
That's why he hasn't done anything up until now.
If you don't mind, Mike, this just goes into exactly what you're saying here. Let me just play this clip from Reagan here really quick.
Go ahead.
Let me bring it up. Here we go.
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species from another planet outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together.
You know what? I think this is the clip, Mike. That clip there is what we usually don't see when they talk about Reagan talking about the UFO threat, right?
Yeah.
Because everything they always play is that clip of him in front of the United Nations. This one's a bit more personable, and here's the biggest thing. The one man who really idolizes Ronald Reagan is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just saying. Get him to see this. Have him connect to the words and to who he is. It might do something.
Well, a lot of the information from back then that has gone by the wayside includes the fact that Putin himself was working with Mikhail Gorbachev back at that time when Reagan made this announcement.
Right.
So he's well aware of what was going on between Russia and the United States and a potential outside threat.
Yeah.
He's not stupid. So, I think if we really were facing something beyond us, anything that's going on currently between us and him, I think would go by the wayside pretty goddamn quickly.
Didn't Elizondo say that the Russians lost fighter aircraft, or was that?
Oh, they did. No, they did. They absolutely did.
Yeah, but there was also reports
threat,
that
though, right?
there were also reports that came out of Russia where they talked about their people being turned to stone and the equipment being turned to stone when they attacked this past.
That's a threat, right?
Well, who's the threat? Are we the threat? Or if they've always been here, are they the threat? If we treat them in certain ways and do certain things, it's kind of like, oh, I shouldn't do that because I'll pay the price. So who's the threat? Are we the threat or are they the threat?
Well, Thomas, when you
after
say
that time, the Russian military put standing orders out after they lost some aircraft and pilots that cannot fire on any unknown objects in Russian military airspace anymore, and they haven't. So they changed their policy.
Yeah, don't.
And the Russians consider it a threat. That means the Russians consider it a threat. If they're not going to shoot at something, they consider it a threat.
Well, then why is it then, Abe, really quick? Why is it, Abe, that, so it's just hard to hold off infrared, when, Abe, when the United States Air Force, for the longest period of time, has gone and, if you want to call it, said that the UFO phenomenon is not a threat, and remember, the Air Force was put together to deal with the UFO situation back in 1947. So if they've been saying up until recently, top leadership, it's not a threat. And also when Space Force has talked about it, they've talked about what they've seen, what they're doing, the observations they've made, how they want to work with people around the world. Space Force isn't calling it a threat. So
I was in the Navy, and David Fravor got his hair stood up on the back of his neck, and he got in what he describes pilot terminology as a two-circle fight, and he wasn't armed. So, imagine if he was armed that day.
But here's the thing.
Have turned out.
Those craft were playing with him. It was a game for them. Just like
what about that F-22 that got intercepted? That was Air Force, wasn't it?
No. What about the the fighter jets from the Red Arrows that were doing, if you want to call it, maneuvers, where they have each fighter jets going along, and as they pass, they go ahead and level off. And as this one's leveling off at 14,000 miles an hour, you have one of these things coming down, passing within 70 feet of this craft going at 450 miles an hour of the nose, leveling off and shooting off, and this thing barely moved. When this thing came in, did its maneuver, and shot off, and basically maybe it's moved 100 feet, but still within that close to the nose of it. So is it a threat, or is it literally them playing along with us to say, okay, you think you're hot, you can do all these things, let's just go ahead and show what you're doing and show you who really owns the skies?
You don't let somebody come to your house and do any of those things in your yard, in your backyard, in front of your house, around your family. Until ET comes to the White House and shakes any president's hand and says, hey, we're not a threat, it's a threat.
Yeah. The thing is, the most compelling thing, I think, about all the UFO things is that you can actually see the energy signatures from these things, like
you've got that, but just getting back to the conversation really quick, even a thunderstorm is a threat. A cloud of Canadian geese is a threat. The temperature of the day and the humidity is potentially considered a threat. The military is known for going ahead and finding ways to consider everything a potential threat. Yes, there is a threat. The threat could be that, wow, this isn't our ocean. This isn't our planet. It's actually theirs. They've just been tolerating us for the longest period of time, and now they're going ahead and playing along with us. Because honestly, if that Tic Tac wanted to take down that fighter jet that Fravor or Dietrich were in, it would have been gone in a second. Same way with the aircraft carrier group.
I agree.
You take one of those craft.
They were also not armed, so maybe it deemed them a non-threat.
Well, or it just looks at humanity for what we have and their capabilities. And yes, we determine you, like you would see on Star Trek and different things. They're looking at us and saying, oh, God, no, you're not a threat. Let's go have some fun.
But what are their intentions? Is that a threat to us?
I could tell you about Fravor. He was unarmed. You're right about that. And Alex Dietrich was covered 20,000 feet. He went down to engage when they were doing their circle, which is typical for dogfighting in the modern jet age. He cut the circle. Why? Because he wanted to A, intercept it as it was doing its dance, and B, he was prepared to ram it and eject. He has balls, brass balls. For a short man, I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with David Fravor. He was in charge of the fighter group and the Black Aces, and he had every intention on taking that object out because he didn't know if it was a threat or not.
Mike,
he's a hero.
Mike and Corporal, sorry, but you sound like you would know. But if that situation arises in the sky, is there a law saying that they have to take it out? But even if it's not showing anything that's
Abe, you could explain this. There's something known as rules of engagement within the military. Every military.
Yeah, there's rules of engagement, and the specific situation that we were talking about, I was in the Navy during this time, and it was pretty much covered up pretty well.
Right.
And we weren't shooting anything down.
Right, but this had been
it was scary for everybody that
it was, but
it.
let me just say about this really quick. These craft, when we had Kevin Day on this channel, right, Mike?
We did, yes.
He was part of the radar observation platform, seeing all the stuff that just came out with the new upgrades they had recently received. And when that was going on, it had been going on almost for like a week before the whole Tic Tac incident happened, right?
More than a week.
That's right.
It was more than a week. Yep.
So finally, after we're
2
seeing
weeks.
these things from coming in and being at a very high altitude, coming in and dropping from 60 feet down to like 50 feet in a fraction of a second, we saw all this, and now finally into this, we actually encountered some of the shit. And it wasn't just a Tic Tac that he saw, it was also the cross-shaped object that was underwater that was about the size of a 747 that had was creating bubbles and stuff, so they could see there was something large actively under the water in addition to the Tic Tac. Now, everyone always talks about good old Tic Tac, but nobody really talks about that other object that was also observed. Why?
Well, I just want to say that's where I'm getting this threat narrative from, is because the tempo of the Navy at the time, I was in when Kevin Day was in, we all considered this a threat, and it got hushed up because of the fact that they didn't have an answer for a response to it, right? They didn't know if it was Russian or Chinese. They didn't know if it was space aliens. They didn't know how to shoot it down. They didn't know what to do with it. And at that specific time, we had our hands full with another enemy, and we were engaged in a war.
Can I also say about the connection that I have here as well is that there is something going on with the Navy and information, because when you look back to like Admiral Byrd and when his encounter in Antarctica, which is where
but there was also an encounter, I believe it wasn't at the USS Eisenhower, that was like something back in the 50s or something that had a really large object that came near to it. It was like a giant orb, and it shut down the whole carrier. I thought that was something I've talked about in the past.
Lou talked about that.
Yeah.
So really, there is historically there is information being withheld, or or that it's something that the normal people like you, well, not normal people, any like people, members of the services as well, the forces, special people like those that are are also involved in this, and that is quite, because that also feeds into sort of Soviet conspiracies with double agents, triple agents, all that kind of thing. And it's I think the whole thing is wild, really.
Well, you bring up agents and double agents. In the past, Lou was counterintelligence. It all kind of ties back to home, right? Doesn't it, Mike?
Oh, it does. It really does. But I could tell you that as far as perceived threat, we know that Russia lost aircraft and men, and they changed their standing orders to not engage these objects. I can tell you we had, not that long ago, Francisco Guerrero on the show. He was a member of the European Parliament.
Yeah.
And he spoke about how China has standing orders for their military to engage and try to shoot down any unknown objects that enter into their airspace. So they're taking the opposite position that Russia is taking, because to them, they do perceive it as a threat. And they are looking to protect their citizens and their territory, unlike the United States, and trying to do something about it. So that was the other side of the coin to this whole equation about these objects and our governments here on Earth and their positions. I still think that we need to bring the truth out, and we need to all get on board with what we're up against and deal with it as far as however we really need to deal with this, potentially as a threat or not. But until we get more information on it, we're not going to know what it is or what it isn't. And that still remains to be seen. Right, Thomas?
Absolutely, Mike. It's just one of those things. You just have to keep our eyes open and our eyes to the sky and understand what the heck is out there, because you know what? We're not alone. These things have been interacting with us for a very long period of time. I mean, just going back to, God, I just saw this feed I was looking at. We've talked about or haven't talked about. God, something I saw. There was, you know, so many different instances from humanity of interactions between the non-human intelligence. It's part of the geologic, not the geological record, but the archaeological record of humanity.
Oh, it goes back for a long, long period of time, a lot longer than Roswell. But we know, based on David Grush's testimony, that it isn't just Roswell in 47. There was a crash of a craft that we recovered from 1933 in Magenta, Italy.
Yeah,
we also
but
know, going back to the Civil War, there are still records from that time that are still classified. Right, Thomas?
Yeah, but over 3,000 years ago, they were creating artwork that looked like this.
There you go.
You know, you look at it, the information is out there. We always try to disregard it, everything versus
it's where it gets deep. It's where it gets really deep around these things, because that is how our whole civilization, like both mentally, physically, and technology-wise and engineering, all started from that particular civilization. And to me, I think, it's like there's a sort of romance that goes with that as well, just as there is with like a renaissance after a war. It's that sort of romance that keeps us sort of searching for answers, and I think this is why the history is so important to the future as well.
Well, for me and Thomas, it's not a romance. It's not about that. It's about getting to the truth.
Yeah.
I think about, Mike, what you were saying about earlier about China and how they care about their citizens.
Yeah.
I don't believe so much, only because I believe the date was February 10th, to where the Chinese government has not paid the factory workers in probably like 3 to 6 months. And therefore there were 5 factories set on fire by said employees by the Chinese Republic. And they're not happy over there, brother.
Oh, Gregory, listen, I'm not defending communist China by any means.
I believe
I'm just pointing out that government took a public stand to try to protect their territory, and our government has not.
Exactly.
That's my only point.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're saying, but I don't think they have the People's Republic, which runs their actually government. They don't care about those people.
All right, really quick for the UK, some news.
Thank you.
That's out there. Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate that. Young Gregory, I love it. All right, breaking. So British Steel announces it will close its 2 last blast furnaces in Scunthorpe, ending a steel production in the UK after more than 150 years. not sure if this is a Green Deal or a climate situation, but it sounds like a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs, and it's also going to make United Kingdom more reliant on foreign governments to go ahead and give for its steel production. Andy.
Yeah, Scunthorpe, up in Yorkshire. But yeah, most of British steel was bought out by Tata, which is an Indian company.
Yeah.
So we haven't had an English steel manufacturer for several years. They've got some over in Wales, a place called Port Talbot. There was a lot of steel making over there. That's all gone as far as I know. So yeah, we've been sold out. You know,
Andy, you're from Bristol as well. We're quite we were quite known for the steel industry here.
Yeah.
It's you know, I've known people in that industry, and yeah, it's like all of the, you know, you know, you've got the Midlands where our lovely friend Gary comes from, you know, the black country, you know, it's black not for being a racist. It was black because it was industrial, you know, it was all the soot in the air and everything. And the coal and everything's been wiped out. You know, even in this part of the country where I am, you know, we had big coal mining industries. I've got ancestors that were coal miners. And yeah, everything's gone.
And that's the other thing as well, Andy. You know, sometimes I feel sad that you have to mention something like that. That to everybody, you know, from who is from the Midlands or from the UK, know that is why it's called the Black Country. But the fact that you have to bring it up, you know, is sad really to me, because I think that is also part of a cultural sort
But it's
of
not just a cultural thing with the people. It's actually puts at risk the national security of the United Kingdom. If you don't have the foundries to produce your own steel when you need it, you're screwed.
Yeah, still, you know, we've parts of sorry, info. Parts of Bristol, you know, all around this area was coal mining in the UK. You know, you hear of it being in other parts of the United Kingdom, but actually around here, around Bristol, around the West Country, you know, there was lots of coal mining. You know, you go down to Cornwall, you've got all the iron where they were mining the iron ore. You know, everything has been wiped out. We are now becoming. We're not self-sufficient in any way, shape, or form. You know, the government seems to be wiping out our ability to farm. You know, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that we will lose all independence as a nation, really. You know, that's what worries me about kind of, I'm sorry if this is a sort of a sensitive subject at the moment, but, you know, when Trump sort of pulled out of the Ukraine side kind of involvement, has left us in a huge predicament here, and that could the tension there could easily start World War III as well. And
well, when you have the United Kingdom and France going ahead and it's been reported that they have said that they are going to go ahead and put troops into Ukraine to go ahead and fight against Russia, that turns it into World War III.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what's been discussed, at least what I heard before the show. That was some of the last stuff I heard. I'm not sure where it's gone since then, and some of the stuff I've seen on Twitter, it's part of the feed.
Well, I think, you know, that, again, Thomas, it's so fascinating that this comes down to cultural history, you know, the French, you know, giving the engineering technology, which is why, you know, New York has the Statue of Liberty, and you know, and so there's that connection there as well, which really should still be honored, I think, you know, which still should be a part of, but slowly our traditions are kind of being kind of burnt away, you know.
Meanwhile, France wants their Statue of Liberty back. Good luck. Come get it.
Boy.
We'll see what happens with that. It is still New York.
Yeah, of course. I didn't realize that. That's awful. That's I mean, that's beside. Again, that's something that is not controlled by sort of the normal people and not the normal sort of thoughts and perceptions of, you know, other nations. It's the government that controls that, and it seeps down into the you know, our social normality. And I think that's where you know, people can go very wrong with things, because there is no answers to some of this. And I think that's what you have to take on in your consciousness if you want to go down this particular road.
Check out our deal lock items.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Time will tell, but there's a lot going on in the world today, and we have a lot going on here in the United States, and hopefully a lot that will be coming out with disclosure at one point.
I hope so, Mike. I hope so, Mike. Because you and I, we're all, and Thomas, we're all peaceful people.
Oh, we are.
We all feel like we want to, you know, to say these things to the people that matter,
right.
You know, and that is us, right. Because the, you know, your audience, Thomas, your friends, you're the people that work for you, and you know, we all need that sort of support here.
We have to be. And if I can really quickly, we've got one more story, Mike. This is something I read about earlier in the week. We're going to start covering more of these things on Saturdays because we can. Concerned citizens, you know, from Tuesday, white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges compared to other groups in society. I guess Britain is about to officially and formally embrace a two-tier justice system where bright white British Christian men could be persecuted more by the full force of the law. You know, there's a story here from Great British News, just a 42-second segment. Let's go ahead and play this and see where it goes.
Sir Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, who is a Justice Secretary, and saying, I'm afraid to say, these are what's going to happen. And from Tuesday, this is what will happen. Judges will prepare pre-sentencing reports when necessary. And if someone is of ethnic, cultural or faith minority, or a young person under 25, or a woman or a pregnant woman, they will get a special sentencing report. Normally, those pre-sentencing reports do mean that the sentence.
So there we go. Let me go back.
This is what will happen. Both Sir Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, who is a Justice Secretary, and saying, I'm afraid to say, these are what's going to happen. And from Tuesday, this.
Okay, from Tuesday.
This is what will happen. Judges will prepare pre-sentencing reports.
Judges with their pre-sentencing report.
When necessary. And if someone is of ethnic, cultural or faith minority.
Ethnic, cultural, or faith minority, right? Basically all migrants who've come into the United Kingdom who have been causing a lot of issues with just what the United Kingdom used to stand for.
Or a young person under 25.
Young people under 25.
Or a woman or a pregnant woman. They will get a special sentencing report.
Are going to have ability to have a special sentencing report. So if they're committing crimes and different things, we've seen a lot of stuff going on about that. They're going to go ahead and just start legally giving them a way out.
Normally, those pre-sentencing reports do mean that the sentence is mitigated, that time is taken off for a jail term, for example.
So they're mitigating this before it actually before it actually gets judged. It's crazy.
What it means, though, is that white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups in society.
Mike, that is just nuts.
Sounds like you're talking about reverse racism, and that shouldn't be tolerated no matter what side it's coming from.
No. It's it's cultural racism.
It's the opposite of what it should be. It's racism no matter how you slice it or dice it, and that shouldn't be going on.
No.
Yeah, and this is what scares. This is, I mean, I always say this is what scares me, but like it is concerning because like when you see, you know, where Trump's inauguration, like when Elon Musk did that salute and stuff like that, like.
But you know what? They call it a salute, but if you look at so many different political figures and other people have done the hand going off, like I'm scratching, whatever it is. Either way, they're not doing the.
Well,
are they taking and clicking their feet together and going off in the pose and saying Sieg Heil? Are they doing that? No, they're not. So to go ahead and say, oh, what he was doing a Nazi salute. No, it's someone who's talking from passion, talking from their heart, touching their heart, and then pointing off into it to go ahead and tell people how to go you know.
And but I guess, again, that comes down to your own thoughts about Musk, you know.
No, it just comes down to interpreting what was there. And you look at, there have been so many people who have done all this on a regular basis. I could go ahead and find the video clips and bring it up. It's in my Twitter feed somewhere. But it's just, it's nitpicking. It's trying to find, how can we go ahead and find little things on here we can nitpick this particular thing and maybe try and make it collapse.
And is that the political agenda there? Really?
Well, you got that. You've got a lot of hate, but it's not hate going after the individuals. It's hate going after your federal citizens. And Mike, isn't that what do you call it, terror?
It could be conceived as domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable.
Right.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of people are going ahead and they're getting persecuted and they're getting prosecuted as malicious mischief or other particular areas. In some places, it's a misdemeanor. Some places, it's a felony, what's going on. But it's part of a bigger issue that these little charges that they're getting hit with are not adequate for the representation of what they were actually doing.
Or the motivations or actions behind it. You're right. It's obviously something that shouldn't be tolerated. And a slap on the wrist is not going to convey the proper message for that. So when they get a misdemeanor and they're told that it's malicious mischief, like, you know, something children would do, no, this is a lot more serious than that.
It's another dynamic, isn't it? You know, it's sort of a legal version of something like, you know, we had BLM here, you know, and it's sort of something like that it draws attention to whatever, you know, to an individual. It draws attention to whatever sort of creed or religion or race you are, and I think that is also where, you know, a lot of control comes from, because we are manipulated with our emotions that way.
Yeah, but like what's going on here in this country with the Tesla movement, keying the cars, burning the cars, that is domestic terrorism because it's violent. It's not just simply a political protest. And a lot of these people from the Democratic side that own these vehicles, and these people that are conducting this type of terrorism at home domestically are from the Democratic side. So it's kind of, they're attacking their own, like a dog-eat-dog scenario, and that shouldn't be tolerated no matter what side of the aisle you happen to be on. That's the point, right, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It's just something that's just, well, it's all just going in the wrong direction on so many different areas. You know, going after the general public and damaging their property, criminally going ahead and doing this, it's not cool.
It's dangerous.
But you talked about, though, the saying that no matter who gets into office, it's going to spill over.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter what side of the
we're seeing
aisle
it
you
now.
happen to be on.
And
yeah,
we're seeing
that now.
We're seeing a war, not just against an individual or against a political organization or after a particular politically, if you want to call it, elected official. We're getting going after the same people we live in our same communities against, and we're putting hate against them, and we're damaging their stuff because we don't like what the other party's doing.
Yeah, it's like apocalyptic, isn't it? Really, it's worrying.
No, it's more like civil war info is what it is.
Yeah,
it's like civil disobedience. It's civil dispute. But you know what the problem is? They're really stupid about the people who are doing this. I'll tell you why. Who are they targeting? A company that's owned by the richest man in the world? Are they really impacting him in any way? No. It's the people who work for a living. It's the people who own these vehicles, this property. They're the ones being impacted by it. And it's not right, and it's not fair, and violence should never be tolerated, no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
And I think, but as well, Mike, it's sort of an extreme, a very, very extreme version of how we feel about our government as well, about kind of not withholding information, controlling us emotionally is definitely happening. And and these people take it to an extreme, and I think that's dangerous because it can lead to something like that, depending on how your social upbringing is.
But these are people who went and supported, and they're all part of the green movement and everything. They all supported what Elon did, what he was doing, trying to make the planet green, going ahead and having Tesla. And now it's like they're going, and that's been erased. And now we have to attack the people that everyone paraded for and got the tax credits for to go ahead and buy these cars.
Right. That's right. So it's stupidity on a grand scale. And it comes across like Saul loses because their party didn't win the previous election, and that shouldn't be tolerated either. It's nonsense, and we don't need this shit right now. There's too much going on in the world.
They're calling it the Third Reich, which is just hilarious, but it's just kind of like.
I didn't realize it was that though. It was because they lost the elections.
They're not happy who's in office right now. No. It has a lot to do with partisan politics, which we've talked about on this show, and pointing out people who have exhibited a lot of partisan politics when they really shouldn't. This is a bipartisan effort. This is about disclosure for not just the American public, but the public around the world, the public at large.
And the biggest thing is it's the people who own the vehicles, like the Tesla that's getting keyed by this older woman going past it. And again, what we're seeing is we're not seeing a bunch of teenagers and other people going and doing this. It's a bunch of, well-seasoned individuals.
See, this is another thing that's fascinating as well, the way that we sort of perceive information as well. So, because, we have the Capitol Hill thing as well, with the same, whichever way you look at it, even if it's even if you do trust some of what the media say about that stuff, that it still came down to the sort of people taking back democracy. That was the purpose behind it, and I think that these setting Tesla cars on fire are sort of just the beginnings of
civil unrest, civil war, potentially, which we don't want or need in this country either. There's too much going on all around the world. We need to deal with fixing the problems, not creating new ones. It's not going to make anything any better. Right, Thomas?
Oh, not at all, Mike. Not at all.
And that's our point. And that's what it's about. And it's about the truth. And that's what we want is actual disclosure. Look, the current administration has people that are running a lot of the organizations in this country that have been keeping the truth from the public for decades. Now we have people who are installed in this administration who are pro-disclosure. In the Justice Department, the Department of Defense, we have people who are now looking to bring the truth out, finally.
Yeah.
So that's something that everybody should be getting behind, that wants the truth, not partisan politics. That's how I see
exactly, Mike. And that's why, I brought some of these news stories up today, because there's more general news, things that are going on. I have a news feed. I know we have a great audience in the United Kingdom, and I wanted to go ahead and cover it. And the response from our viewers started covering this kind of stuff, and more people were hanging around. More people were watching what we're doing. So, you know what, Mike? We're going to do this more on Saturdays.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Look, we're over an hour past our usual
I know,
cutoff time,
and I need to hit the head. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode of Disclosure tonight. Mike, thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody in the back. Thanks to the audience. My bladder's calling. So on that note, as we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, good night, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.